give the mighty Barcelona something to worry about. It is Charlie Mulgrew. Samaras, and it's gone in! This is staggering! A moment to remember for the rest of your life! Celtic have the lead in the Nou Camp, and the fans may want to hear that again! Celtic have the lead in the Nou Camp!
Well, I don't care how good your side is, you're going to struggle to defend a free kick of that quality from Charlie Mulgrew. He drops it into the perfect area. They're defending right across the 18-yard box in a zonal system here. But he dropped it into a terrific area. I think it comes off Mascherano. Samaras certainly got a nick on it, but it again comes off Mascherano. And Valdez has no chance at all. He's wrong-footed. But what a good ball in from Charlie Mulgrew. Plenty of pace on it, comes in reasonably flat. And yet, Celtic get a break. Is it going to be enough? That's the question. Real chance here for Celtic to put Victor Valdez under pressure with Charlie Mulgrew's delivery. Let's see how they handle this.
Set-piece scenario offers Celtic so much hope when this man is around. And a corner has certainly raised the decibels in and around Celtic Park, as if it could get any louder. It's Mulgrew to whip it in, and Victor Wanyama has scored! That moment when a dream becomes reality! Celtic have only gone and taken the lead against Barcelona again!
Well, we always thought they might be suspect from set pieces, and boy, does Victor Wanyama make them pay here. Started in a reasonably central position, just peeled off round the back. I think it's Danny Alves, he gets above at the back post. Only one winner, it's a super header. It's Bartra actually, the centre back that he beats in the air, and he certainly got his neck into the header.
Celtic Park is rocking, jumping, bouncing.
Yeah, I think for a second guessed that he was going that side. Just about on the move as Messi struck it, got across comfortably.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember, not just for the rest of his career. Just about on the move as Messi struck it, got across comfortably.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember, not just for the rest of his career, but for the rest of his life. Xavi, of all people, to make the mistake. Mascherano can't get back. Decent touch to get it out of his feet, and it's a super finish. And we're now on the verge of a monumental upset here. What a finish for such a young man. Well, 7 minutes for Celtic to hold on to one of the great results in their history.
He has no fear. Tony Watt. A night that will surely live long. the memory, regardless of what might happen now. Messi. Typical Tony Watt, that. He was never going to be fazed by playing Barcelona. Matthews intervening there. Crossed by Messi. Pedro's route is blocked by Kelvin Wilson.
He's claiming handball there against Kelvin Wilson, but you know, the ball's travelled such a short distance. Wilson knew nothing about it.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I want to do an experiment here, and a technique that I learned from my old sales days, and it's called anchoring. Anchoring, they call it. So I want people out there. It's best done. Well, it can be done. This experiment is done to help people who are feeling low or sad or upset. Now, that moment we just heard there when Tony Watt scored, it'll be like the John Hartson goal at Liverpool, the moment when we knew we were going on to victory and it was going to be the best night ever, or one of the best nights ever, ranking along the greats like the Liverpool, like the Boa Vista, like Seville. And this anchoring thing is a technique that I learnt from sales. And human beings, we end up anchoring each other all over the place. And when I'm saying anchoring, how can I paint the picture? If you meet a boy or a girl or whatever, and at the time they meet, they always have, each couple has their, what's called their song. So their song. So they assign themselves this song, and obviously at the time when they meet, they're all loved up and all that, and it's the most excitable moment. So, and what happens that this song that they call their song, that they choose to be their song, that every time it plays, or they hear it in the future, they become anchored to it, and the same emotions that they felt and at the same time come rushing, flooding back. Sadly, I've got a anchor moment for me through music that happened just a few short years ago when my uncle passed away. And a tune that I love to bits called Imagine by John Lennon was repeatedly played over and over in the crematorium. And well, it stuck with me. Now, anytime I hear that song, it's indelibly marked with my uncle's funeral. They played it over and over, I don't know how many times, 9, 10, 20 times, I don't know, but it was just prior to when everybody was there. Imagine all the people, yeah, beautiful song, poignant at the time, but it's anchored me on that tune where I'll always have that emotion. So what I want to do, and people do it as well, when the same lovers who had the wonderful tune with the emotion, when it comes on, they get taken back to the time, so the emotion. But then they can end up doing that when they have a fight in later years, when the husband goes and brings flowers back to his wife or girlfriend to make up for an argument. And then that innocent act of giving flowers that he thinks is going to be a reprieve, right? The moment he's given those flowers, he's chosen, if he keeps on doing it, then that anchors, guess what? The fact of giving flowers at a bad moment to a person. So that means that any time he goes in the future to give flowers, say Valentine's or whatever, then the bad emotion from that time, from the fight, she thinks, well, he only gives me flowers because he's done something wrong initially. You know, maybe not about doing anything wrong, but that's the thoughts that comes to a woman's mind, maybe. So I want to do this trick and anchor you to Tony Watt. Now, I'm taking this from a self-help book, a sales book by Tom Hopkins, or was it Ron Holland, maybe Ron Holland, or Napoleon Hill, one of these mad crackpots that I learned a lot of my sales skills from. And this anchoring, now what you do, you take your right hand onto your left wrist, and at the point when Tony Watt scores, say to yourself the Tony Watt song, Tony Watt, Tony Watt, squeeze your wrist with your right hand and your left wrist at that emotion, at that point. Now, I'm going to play it with the just the without the visual aspect, and it's probably better getting the video clip of it and watching it happening, and having the hair stand in the back of your neck and listening to 60,000 fans screaming at the top of their lungs in the most joyous occasion, scoring 2 goals on the second goal. So we can anchor ourselves to this emotion of happiness, and then we can at any point, if we anchor ourselves successfully to it, right, we have to get the same grasp of the wrist and the same pressure applied at the moment when he puts the ball in the net and you say Tony Watt. Just say Tony Watt. That's all you need to say. Forget the song, just keep it simple and say Tony Watt. Squeeze your hand and say Tony Watt. And then, without watching that in the future, God willing, if you're feeling sad or upset, you don't even need a video or whatever, just put your right hand on your left wrist and say Tony Watt. And God willing, your mood will be lifted. So let's try this wee experiment here. And this show is dedicated to a good brother or sister, a brother or sister, I do apologise. Celtic Family 67, the Derry Crack, at Derry Crack, said get this boy followed and get his numbers ramped up. And God bless to the brother. And yes, the good brother there, or sister, Celtic Family, please keep me right, what you are. Says he's wanting to unite the Celtic family one tweet at a time, yeah. So I'm trying to unite the Celtic family at one call and at one show, or at one crackpot theory at a time. Yeah, that's me. One crackpot theory at a time. So I'll lead it in. This is just coming up to obviously the commentary of the game. They were talking about what happened with the free kick that Messi fired into the arms of Foster before he punted it. So just at that key point, as he says it, have your right arm onto your left wrist, apply pressure that can be repeated, just a firm amount of pressure, say Tony Watt, and look at that a moment and say it over and over, Tony Watt, if you like, 1 Tony Watt, 2 Tony Watts, I don't know, but say 1 and remember that right at the moment he scores, and then God willing, I'll give you a boost at any time you feel low.
Messi struck it, got across comfortable.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Cut. Just at that point, this is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0. That's all you need. You could just listen to that over and over, couldn't you? Repeat the trick again.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember.
Right, did you all do it then? So place your wrists, so one final time, because it's just too good, we'll do it for the final time here. So just as he's saying, when you hear the fans, clasp your wrists, remember the pressure you put on, you need to apply the same amount of pressure in the future, and say Tony Watt. This is a proven 100% method of improving your mental health. If you feel low, bring yourself back to that one point. It's easy to do. Bring yourself back to this one point, one of the highest moments that we'll ever feel in their life as a Celtic family. This one point can help save lives, as far as I look at it. For people who suffer suicide or depression, feeling in a bad way, it's a temporary state of mind. It's a temporary state of mind, and that state of mind can be changed. And all I'm suggesting is just a suggestion. Take it as you want. God willing, it can help people cheer up. It has been proven. It is 100% fact. It's no mumbo jumbo. The facts are out there. Believe it. And believe it in weak zombies, we're going to play it again. For any zombies daft enough to listen to a crackpot like me, they're going to hear one of the most beautiful moments in Celtic's history. 2-0, the best club team in the world beat the best team in the world. We became world champions for that night. Here we go. Tony Watt, squeeze your wrist, right hand onto left wrist. Tony Watt, goal. Let's go. Last time, and then we'll start the show on proper.
It was going that side. Just about on the move as Messi struck it. Got across comfortable.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember, not just for the rest of his career, but for the rest of his life. Xavi, of all people, to make the mistake. Mascherano can't get back. Decent touch to get it out of his feet, and it's a super finish. And we're now on the verge of a monumental upset here.
A monumental upset. Yes, beautiful. Right. So as the show says, a Masonic cover-up is going down at the BBC. Let's deal with the BBC cover-up here. Hold on, before I do that, let's give a big shout out to everybody who's mentioned me here. As I say, from earlier on there I was mentioning, big shout out to the Celtic family, 67, Derry Crack. Let's see, Dilboy Green. The Hun and Sevco zombies, old Newco, have to be the most unprincipled people on planet Earth. And let's see, it's an amazing, I think I had, was it 4,100? And now I've got up to, I've got 50, I've gained about 50 followers in a morning. In less than a couple of hours work. It's unprecedented. I've not seen a meteoric rise through the followers charts since the time when I did the Craig Whitey call. And then I was just adding like a dozen in a second. I was paying the minimum. It put me off going to collect my wee boy for his surfing competition down Melbourne. I'll shake my Tajiri's bill in Amsterdam. It was through the fecking roof. I think he added that on to the liquidation bill. Yes, he put it down for face painting or something like that. If you see a face painting bill or something, or fucking something made up, couldn't exactly put it down as gas hookers, damn, could you? I mean, it's just a dead giveaway. I'll shake my Tajiri, be 100 on and quarter, went it back to the Middle East. What's that? You met up with your brother Tommy, you ended up in Adam with the gas cookers? With a bill like that? I mean, you're taking the single fish, sunshine. Shake my Tajiri, you better here, you're getting your gonads chopped for that one. So, yes, it's all down as chauffeur. Did you see the list? Anybody see that list the other day? They say we'll get to cover the Masonic time, but I need to calm down. I'm in such a high from listening to that repeatedly over and over. We had the 2 goals, the first goal and the one from the Nou Camp, and then the repeated one there of Tony Watt. I'm just in such a hyper high now. It's raised me to I can't begin to sully myself with the nonsense of the BBC. So do allow me to opine and such flannel juice and gibberish and other stuff before I go on to the serious matters. Please allow me, because it was so beautiful. It was just, as I said, I did a couple of shows last night. This show is only 10 hours late, about 10 hours late. The technical difficulty last night. I did a couple of shows. I can post them on. I'll post them up later on. Put the whole 3 up together. Later on, I was supposed to do this after the 2 I did. One on the Remembrance with a good brother called the Parrot, with his Mellow Birds and Cash and Carry Part like mines. and we chewed the cud over the remembrance, carry on, and other such things. And I did some chat. I did the first show myself, chatting about how far we can take this team. And I know it's shouldn't get ahead of yourselves, take every step at a time, get through the group stages first, still to be completed, the job still to be done. But just for a wee bit to look forward and think how far we can go. I think quarter-finals with a chance at a semi-final. There's no team out there that we should fear. Yeah, there's teams we would like to avoid, and particularly the first lot of matches, because it's weighted heavily in favour of the teams who play first. I feel Celtic being a classic counter-attacking team, we're better. With our atmosphere, we're better having the second leg at home. It's just a thought. But the first leg, if we come second in the groups, is going to be at home. But so if we get a Diddy team of sorts, like Schalke or Porto or something that we can handle, instead of something like Real or something that's major, then getting into that quarter-finals, that's the major achievement. If we do that, he's taken us into unprecedented territory for recent times. Okay, we won the big cup, but in the new format, to get us there, then it's truly a remarkable achievement. And I would venture that whoever we got in that next level, they ain't wanting us. And if we get the luck of the draw, we get a home tie second. You imagine it? Whoever we're playing, with a good away record that we've got, wherever we go, we come back to Celtic Park in a quarter-final game, poised 90 minutes from a semi-final. That's within our grasp. Just that alone. We can get through the first knockout and we get into a quarter-final, bringing them back to a second leg with an atmosphere like that. Not one team in that competition, including Barca, who we could maybe face at that point, not one team would relish that. Not one single team. So that's how far we've came. A week or so ago, I spoke to a good brother, maybe speak to you later on, and we discussed, and he said possibly it's maybe even better to go into the Europa to get us onto it. But look how far we've came since that point. Now we can dream that, no, the Europa is beneath us. Saying that, if we get into it, we could probably win it with ease. So I would take those words back. It's not beneath us. It should be that arrogant. As I stated in the call, with the stuff that I did to the good brother and beyond the waves, to win every game, that's not what I joined up Celtic for. Not to win a game of football. We win every time we take to the park. We win every time we play a game of football. We're victorious for the fact that we're here in a place where we're not wanted, where we're despised, where we're discriminated. That is our victory. That is my victory. The team who destroyed Scottish football and took themselves to Armageddon. They did it because of their wanton destruction of their belief to take them to whatever it took, whatever means necessary, bribing referees, financial doping, whatever it took for them to get there. That's what they did. Listen, 2 seconds, I've got a wee problem here. I'm going to play this back again. I've got something to do with 2 seconds. I don't. Yeah, but I'll go take a wee break here. Just got a wee bit of problem here. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Give me 2 minutes, maybe 5. We'll start with the goal. The wonderful goal.
Real chance here for Celtic to put Victor Valdez under pressure with Charlie Mulgrew's delivery. Let's see how they handle this.
The scenario offers Celtic so much hope when this man is around. And a corner has certainly raised the decibels in and around Celtic Park, as if it could get any louder. It's Mulgrew to whip it in, and Victor Wanyama has scored. That moment when a dream becomes reality. Celtic have already gone and taken the lead against Barcelona again.
Well, we always thought they might be suspect from set pieces, and boy, Does Victor Wanyama make them pay here? Started in a reasonably central position, just peeled off round the back. I think it's Danny Alves he gets above at the back post. Only one winner. It's a super header.
Right, sorted. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're not a win at all cost clubs. Never have been, never will be. That's the beautiness of Celtic. Well, that other mob went to rack and ruin, chasing a dream, chasing a goal that they placed upon themselves, and this around the goal that they placed upon themselves of winning the big cup ended up killing them. They thought that they could do it. Their arrogance of Mr. Murray, thinking that he could do whatever, spend whatever, feed enough succulent lamb and upmarket buckfast to the loyal laptop fannies. Yeah, he thought he could get away with it. Then the plug get pulled in the financial system, his Ponzi scheme fell apart like Bernie Madoff's. All his friends made off with not even a thank you. And now as he sits there with not a pot to piss in, just a severe headache that he's caused the establishment. What will be done? And what the fuck has happened to this tax case verdict? And wasn't supposedly the dual contract supposed to be this week? Is that put on to next week now? Shocking any time. Absolutely shocking. Right, let's see where I've gone here. Anybody on your Twitter? Right. 2 seconds, tips, 2 seconds. I'm just going into. Right. That's all I'll do, tapping because I'm conscious. You're hearing that a bit too loud. Nice one, just now. Help Catalonia. Hold on, I just want to check a direct message. Right. Well, that's sorted, as I say. Doing this on my Jack Jones here. No Libyan counterpart from Russia to help me out. Run this show. It's pure cash and carry time here with the Mellow Birds. So now, without further ado, we're going to talk about the Masonic cover-up at the BBC.
Cross comfortably.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend at the age of just 18.
There we go. So, Tony Watt, what a guy. I saw him hobbling out of Celtic Park after the game at the weekend, and all the fans flocking round him. Now what should have been done, there should have been a security guard who should have allowed him to be ushered to his car for him to sit and rest his foot, and the people who were standing there smoking in front of him, allowing a footballer to breathe your filthy fag ends. An outrage, an absolute disgrace. Sort it out there. At least employ a crackpot chauffeur like myself to drive the Merc, to drive your boys about. How's about that then, eh? Get me in there and get me in about it, to drive the players while I do interviews with my wee radio show at the same time. Come on Celtic, sort it out. Imagine, Mike, can you imagine it? Would that have happened at Barcelona? A teenage sensation, 18, who just scored the winning goal less than a week, is not given any protection. Well, I know there's nothing going to happen to him, but Surely, if we get a sore leg, they should have said, or someone should have said, hold on, rest that up. Don't even drive home. Give this boy a driver. Get somebody to drive him home. I mean, how much is insurance for anybody to drive his motor? It can't be that much, you know what I mean, for a football player. His lovely Mercedes. Somebody else should have been driving him home with a sore foot. Or at the very least, he should have been ushered into his car and allowed to sit down and then sign instead of standing on a damaged leg. The boy is precious and he's fit. Was it his right foot that got injured that day? Was it his left foot? If it was his right foot, that should be insured for billions, you know what I mean? If Victor Wanyama is worth 25 million, the right peg of that boy should be worth at least 50 million. Because the big African boy, you know what I mean? Our man Big Vic, his head is worth 25 mil. And they've not even took into account what his feet are worth, you know what I mean? So, I'll tell you what, his right peg must be valued at least 40 million, 50 million. Anyway, right, we will get on to the BBC and the Masonic cover-up eventually. The thing that sickens me is how we are told since the last few days that Lord McAlpine was wrongly accused and is now innocent. This is a narrative they're now forcing down our throats. And I'm suggesting to you just now that what has happened in the last few days regarding what the BBC have said and done from Newsnight and all the relevant bodies since then has been a Masonic cover-up. First of all, the agenda has been altered completely. Instead of talking about paedophiles in the highest echelons of Downing Street, and that's what it should be in the focus on, news stories only have a short shelf life. The attention span of a jilted generation out there is very short. So once they've had something spoon-fed to them for a while, they want to move on and get on to something else different and fresh. So how convenient it was for the BBC fuck-up to allow the agenda to be twisted to a narrative of their choosing. They make a mistake. How is it possible a guy who accuses, and this is where I smelt a rat, within 1 hour of a statement being read out, or from me hearing it anyway, a couple of hours, in a short period of time, we had a statement from Lord McAlpine's solicitor suggesting it was a case of mistaken identity, wishing to say sorry to the alleged person who was abused, who came forward at this point. Now, we're only dealing with one separate issue. There's other cases out there, there's other outstanding issues regarding North Wales homes. So they've already, everywhere, and I mean everywhere, you listen to a BBC broadcast just now, and everywhere they're banding him innocent. Maybe he's innocent of this one, but there's other charges to be put against him. So to be banding him innocent is a dangerous move. In fact, it's more than dangerous, it's a Masonic cover-up. The Masonic Rothschild cabal is honouring and helping their friend McAlpine. Now this bestial bastard, this Freemasonic devil-worshipping cunt, okay? Let's get right down to it. These dirty bastards. I stand with the one true God. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I seek refuge in God from the cursed Satan. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most kind. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. I seek refuge in God from the cursed Satan. There's nothing that these devil-worshipping scum can do that hasn't been already preordained for me in my future, in my kismet, as it's known in Arabic. So whatever the fate may befall, I couldn't give a damn. I'm here to expose the Freemasons in all their guises. I've said on radio, national radio, I've spoke about it in my shows in depth. I've got experts on who know intricate details of the Masonic cabal that happens in this country. The Masonic heartland is in Britain, would you believe? There's more Masonic lodges in London. The London Square Mile, where the banking cabal sits controlling the entire planet with their voodoo economics and their use of usury or interest. They even imported Cleopatra's Needle from Alexandria, I think it was, or Egypt, wherever it was. Imported it. And Threadneedle Street, where the Bank of England sits, it sits on top of an ancient Roman temple. The name of it escapes me, but anyway, they're occultists. They're devil worshippers. The Tower of Babel, the Cleopatra Needle, the column that sits in every town and city and village and popular houses everywhere in this country and all over the world. The phallic symbol, you know what I'm talking about, it sits in Glasgow Green. Well, the one in the Washington Monument sits at 555 feet high, and that is a Masonic call to their obscene deity that they hold dear to, sick bastards. And when the Muslims go on their Hajj and their pilgrimage to Hajj in the Middle East, there's part of that pilgrimage where they throw stones at 3 phallic symbols that are meant to be representative of Satan. That is why when the Iranians in the hostage situation and the Ayatollah Khomeini ousted and one of the most despotic bastards in the region who was a puppet of America, the Shah of Iran, they called America the Great Satan. The Great Satan had inflicted a tyrant, a bastard, that was so despotic that it was beyond belief on the Iranian people. So they had every right to call the Yankee Doodle fuckwits Great Satan, okay? And the significance part of the Washington Monument, well, that is there, and the whole round Washington, all that stuff there, the Washington DC is at state of Virginia. It's a city in its own right, similar to the 2 other cities that sit in London and Rome. So you've got, if you look what happens in the Vatican City, and you look what happens in the City of London, so you've got the religious part in the Vatican, you've got the financial part in London, and you've got the military part in Washington, and these all are square mile zones, or principalities, all allowed with their own armies. In London, if you analyse it, all the major banks in the world are located in the square mile of London. It's a money laundering cabal, full of gangsters, terrorists, drug runners, a cesspit of humanity, devil worshipping scumbags. Albert Pike said in his book Morals and Dogma of the Ancient Rites of Scottish Thought, whatever it was, he said that anyone above the 33rd degree rank in Freemasonry was in fact a follower of the Luciferian doctrine, follower of Satan. When they get to that level, they أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge in God from the cursed Satan. I say that for the rest of your people out there who are listening. I seek refuge in God from the cursed Satan. I seek refuge in God from the cursed Satan. For everyone out there, I don't mean to give you their spells or tell you their stuff, but I may say one of their wretched words, and because to speak this wretched word out with the oath of allegiance between the Royal Arch members, where they encircle their hands 3 on 3 and chant, they don't chant this, I'm just saying this for protection one more time, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge from God from the cursed Satan. They chant Jehovah Yabalon. I won't say that again. And this wretched word brings unseen wretched forces, compels them, and allows them to do the devil worship and black magic. Basically, the scum of the earth. Yeah. By me even saying this, okay, warrants me to have a death warrant where I should have my throat slit and placed on the beach for the high tide or low tide or whatever kind of voodoo bullshit is they believe. Yeah, that's my punishment for speaking the truth of these devil worshipping scum. When Jack de Morley came back from the Middle East, having fought the Crusades, I think it was Pope Urban, had him burnt at the stake because he get mixed up with people in the Middle East, Kabbalists we may call them just now, who were practicing black magic, who were practicing devil worshipping, bestiality, sodomy, all different, devious, horrible evilness. So when they come back, having learned these arts, these magicians, yeah, I could give you the full story and how well I will have to give you it now, yeah. The magic that people learnt came back from the ancients when there was a time when the jinn, which is unseen, made of fire, we can no longer see them, but there was a time when humanity was able to see the jinn. The word genie stems from the Arabic word jinn. Yeah, the genie in the lamp, the jinn in the lamp, from the Aladdin. Well, that stems from the word jinn. And so these are made of fire. And at a time when human beings were in its infancy, we were able to see and distinguish for the jinn. And there was a prophet called King Solomon. And what happened was he died. And on his wooden staff, God preserved the image in a hologram, or preserved the image of King Solomon, so as the mischievous jinn, because there's good jinn and bad jinn, just like good humans and bad humans, and the jinn, to stop them from being rebellious, he made it seem to them that Solomon himself was still alive. But at one point, a woodworm gnawed away at his staff, and the illusion vanished, and the mischievous jinn saw that they had an opportunity to corrupt the weak minds of the humans, and they achieved a victory. And many of the knowledge of the unseen was passed to man, and then a veil at some point in the future was drawn with man and the unseen. But the magic that was learned from the humanity from men at that time was preserved. So you've got these Kabbalists. There is a magic in words. A magic in words. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said there is a magic in words. And if you look at the TV, if you look at the sales, you look at the marketing and the propaganda, you can see there is a clear magic in words. They can make people do stuff that they hadn't intended to do. The power of suggestion. That's what I tried on everybody earlier on, the power of suggestion. I suggested something that would maybe make you happier, but if you tried it out, I gave you a fact that I said it was 100% proof of working, and try to suggest to you to do it for your own goodness. There's people who will do stuff, who will suggest you to do stuff that will be for your own detriment. And the people who run society, these devil worshippers, they're out giving their auto-suggestion through the TV, the mind manipulation of the media. What they've done in the last 10 years, the mind manipulation of the good people of the Western Hemisphere, the world, has been to poison their minds against Islam and people who are Muslim. So they're demonised and held as terrorists. I'm not going into the whole fact that quite possibly that 9/11 is an inside job set up by the Bush-Cheney cabal in the White House with the project for the new American century, with their Zionist neocon cabal, that already predicted and said that it was going to happen. I'll not go into all that just now. I'll take it as read that wherever you stand on that, it doesn't really matter. But the suggestion is that from that point that all Muslims are bad, that from the actions of 19 individuals, that 1.5 billion or whatever it is Muslims that are on the planet are to be demonised as terrorists and bearded lunatics out to destroy our way of life, then nothing could be further from the truth. How can I say that? Look at the explosion of the Arab Revolution in the last few years. What do these people call for? Are they calling for Osama bin Laden? Are they calling for beheadings? Are they calling for war? Do they want to march in London? Do they want to blow up Washington? Do they fuck What do they want? Same as us, would you believe it? A bit of democracy, a bit of freedom of expression. Can't you see that? These 200 million Arabs, these billion Muslims, if we give them water, if we give them education, if we feed them, if we clothe them, we allow them to grow and prosper instead of stealing from them, if we stop terrorising our country, if we stop dropping daisy cutter bombs, if we stop dropping phosphorus gas, if we stop poisoning the plantation, if we stop dropping sub-nuclear bombs, uranium that has poisoned the whole country of Iraq, where birth deformations are standard. Same in Palestine with all the phosphorus gas attacks from the illegal Zionist entity. I'm disappearing into too many tangents here. I need to resurface back on Planet Crackpot here and keep myself focused on what I'm trying to do. I've disappeared now talking about other stuff when I should have been talking about the BBC. There we go, but get carried away with myself, but c'est la vie. Hopefully all you fanjitas out there are having fun today. It's 10 to 12, Crackpot mean time. It's actually 12 minutes to 12, but Crackpot mean time, we'll just take a rough guesstimate. Quite good for me, just being 2 minutes out. Sometimes my rough guesstimates are 2 hours out. But right, anyway. Sorry for going on a tangent. Yeah, but what they're doing, and what they've tried to do for against Muslims in the last 10 years is to turn public opinion against them. And so is that if at any point someone from that community comes forward and has a positive message or has something nice to say about them, well, it goes against the grain of the propaganda. There is many good people who can see through that, thank God there is. And all power to those helpers and friends of the Muslim community, just like the Irish community who were put upon for the actions of a few individuals, how the whole Irish community, the whole Catholic nationalist community was deemed as terrorists, as criminals. For what? For the actions of individuals, for whatever cause, whatever reason. There's no collective punishment, has no place in this society, in this world. It's an injustice, and it has to be challenged at every level. And so, you know, if someone like a crackpot or myself can be demonised in the media just because I shout all the time against the Zionist cabal, the Rothschild bank cabal, the MI5, the devil worshippers and the Masonic cover-up, a lot of my stuff that I've been saying is now coming to fruition. The cover-up, the Masonic cabal, the bestiality, you know, from Jimmy Savile and all the high Hitchens, and now this cover-up from the BBC. Stinks to high heavens, I'll tell you that. Yeah, so the message that Muslims could help, I'll finish this point, I was taking us down the road and I'll come back straight to the BBC, but the message that is allowed now to be perverted and not to be allowed to be listened to in any rational way by the mainstream is that Muslims have got something precious there that could help us all in this time of financial Armageddon. And what is that remarkable thing that Muslims hold, that Christians in the past and even the Jewish people held on to? The three monotheistic religions preached all about it. So it's nothing new, it's nothing extraordinary, it's quite revolutionary actually, because it's just a simple method. And from this one simple, small method, the planet as a whole could be miraculously changed into a whole lot of a better place. No poor starving people. But because the world is controlled by these psychopathic, devil-worshipping, nihilist lunatics, with one of their kith and kin, the old racist Duke of Edinburgh, says that if he could come back as a virus, he would want to kill 80% of the world's population, because he views there's too much people on the planet. Yeah, so the one thing that the Muslims have, and the message is, it's just one simple message. It should be applied to the financial system. In just a few short words, no more interest applied. No more interest applied. The financial system doesn't have to be this way. It's an optical illusion. People have faith, blind faith, in an illusion set out by devil-worshipping Kabbalists. They set out this program of deceit and treachery to fool us all into thinking this is a wonderful society we've got. Is it? Heck. Yeah, there's many good things that happen. Yeah, there's worse places to live than planet Scotland and planet UK. Of course there is. Sadly, many of those places that are worse to live are being decimated by bloodthirsty Scots or English fighting for the British Army, paid up mercenaries to the Rothschild banking cabal. Some of them sad, deluded boys, but nonetheless working for the Rothschild banking cabal with its wars of aggression to bring more resources to the family coffers of the Rothschild banking cabal. That's it. It's the nuts and bolts of it. The revolution is stop charging interest on money and watch the society prosper. If only we could loosen the power from these Kabbalists, from these venture capitalist halfwits who have decimated entire nations. 50,000 people die a day. 50,000 people die each single day. We spend trillions, or the United States spends trillions to avenge the deaths of less than 3,000 people that was probably killed by themselves. They spend trillions to fight a made-up enemy. And yet nothing, not one single thing is done to stop the decline of 50,000 people dying each day through the effects of illnesses, diseases that we can treat here. People die of them. Starvation. Starvation when there's milk lakes, butter mountains, excess food. There's food that we waste and throw away or give to our animals. And there's people starving to death. How sick a world is it when countries are bankrupt and companies make billions? Individuals are worth billions. People live in opulence and palaces and wealth and splendour. People die with nothing in their belly. There's one sick fucking planet we live in. It's not Osama bin Laden that sits on the top of the World Bank. It's not Osama bin Laden that sits in the White House. It's not Osama bin Laden who walks about in their jack-booted butcher's aprons, moving from country to country, stealing the resources for their private business concern for the Rothschild banking cabalists. We don't all live here in luxury in this country, no. A lot of us are oppressed here, but the oppression that goes on in other people's countries in the name of freedom and liberty is sick and disgusting. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we live in a sick world, and the world is run by Freemasons. The people who have colluded to pervert the course of justice recently of Lord McAlpine. Let's deal with that half-wit now. He is now being deemed innocent by every BBC media outlet. He's innocent. He's been deemed innocent. Is that right? I don't think so. There's other cases that have to be answered. It's just the way that it came out. Within 1 hour, the gentleman who after 30, 40 years is now presented with a picture. Is now presented with a picture that says, and then he says, oh, now that I've seen him, that's not him. Behave. We didn't come up the Clyde in a fucking banana boat. You try to call us all stupid? You calling me thick? Well, that's the implication of trying to say that after all this time, oh, he looked at a picture now he's been presented and that's not the same guy. Oh, is that right? You think we're all daft and stupid? This guy was paid off, and he was either given a payoff or a threat. Either you're going to die soon, or you're going to have to take this. Take this cash. Look at all the people, there's people that have died in mysterious circumstance. There have been investigations, police into people buried in his estate. Lord McAlpine. Police investigations, you dirty bastard. Come and sue me. I've not got a pot to piss in, you Freemasonic devil worshipping bastard. You evil fuckwit. You will burn in hell for what you've done. God willing, that's a punishment for people who are sick bastards like you. If you have done this, you dirty paedophile bastard. And look what happens, eh? Look what happens. Sir Jimmy Savile, eh? Who would have thunk it? He's going to be the downfall for this whole capitalist, royalist bullshit system. Jimmy Savile, the link to the good and the mighty, eh? He was in there feeding on boys and girls for their sick Masonic bestial parties. Eh? Jimmy Savile, you sick fucking bastard. I hope you're bumming in hell now, you sick fuck, for what you've done to kids up and down the country, feeling lassies up the skirt when they were on TV, taking them into your camper van and raping them, you sick bastard. And all you bastards who are in the Masonic cabal that sits controlling this country, that sits decimating it, eating everybody alive with their fucking interest, you sick bastards. Sorry for the language. I'm descending into their level. I will now rise above it and stop swearing, because really sickening beyond belief how they can get away with it for so long. Lord McAlpine, what other ones in the Tory government? They go to their little boy schools, Eton or whatever it is, whatever their schools are. Sick, repressed bastards, fondling each other, playing with each other. Sick, fucking dirty, bestial bastards. And this is what's taught to them. Human sacrifice, eh? The human sacrifice. It's all about sacrificing fellow humanity with their sick, bestial ways. They think that by sacrificing boys and kids, that this gives them a power and a greatness. Well, it's just absolute sickness. Sickness beyond belief. And these are the leaders. These are the people who dare have the chutzpah, the cheek of the devil, to call people terrorists. For what? After what yous have done? The crimes against humanity in this country and beyond? The butchering at the British apron? You sick bastards. Well, whatever fate befalls me, then I'll wait. Welcome it. Bring it on, you sick bastards. This isn't you. I've exposed you for years. Absolute years on the radio. If your divs are worshipping Masonic lodges, bringing evil forces to the fore. Well, the truth is out there. Seek the truth and reject falsehood, for falsehood is always vanishing. So you bastards at the top of this Masonic cabal, these devil worshipping scum, you should be outed and shamed for the dastardly deeds that you have done. The BBC, how many Masonic cabalists have you in there covering this up? What has been said in the last week? Nothing's. The diversionary tactics used in the last week is nothing short of disgraceful. Absolutely fucking disgusting. Announcing to the world, go and listen to any news. There's one on the now, you could probably listen at 12 o'clock. How he's innocent from the charges. Is he? Fuck. He might have got innocent from that one, but there's other cases. A lot of the people who suffered at their hands are now dead. and the torture. Imagine being tortured by these sick bastards. I mean, Jimmy Savile getting. I mean, the reason why he was so arrogant in that show with Louis Theroux, calling himself the Godfather, because he knew he couldn't be outed. He knew if he was to be jailed or anything at all, then he was going to out everybody. So he just told him to go and sit out in a cabin out in Glencoe and bide his time out there. How many people suffer there? How many people suffer the hand of these sick paedophile bastards? Should we start talking about Sevco now? Should we go into some nicer stuff now? Is this getting a bit heavy here? We went OTT. Well, listen. Have no fear. Tommy is here. Crackpot McDougall, exposing the Freemasonic cabal that dominates and subjugates the entire planet, and it has to be stopped. These bestial bastards have to be stopped. They control the planet. They use interest. They use their money system to control and dominate and subjugate. The way to beat them is to lose faith in their fake system. The optical illusion that they hold over us can be ripped to pieces. All we need to do is choose a new existence. All we have to do is choose a new way to live our lives. We don't need violence, we don't need guns, we don't need weapons. We just need a sea change of thinking into completely non-belief of a bankrupt failed system. Slowly but surely we're getting there. Critical mass will be achieved at some point in the near future, and these devil-worshipping Kabbalists will be swept from power, just like a flick of a card at the bottom of a stack of cards. Poof, it will come crumbling down. Not even a flick, just a little breath of air. It's gone. The cabal, the system of oppression, can be wiped away. All it takes is a little effort, all it takes is a little bit of non-belief in a fake system, a little bit of open-mindedness, a little bit of wanting things to change and making it change and implementing it and calling for it, bringing in a new system of a new currency, bringing in new currencies in our community, localising our currencies was the first step to getting control of the money system. We're taking us out of the euro, or taking us out of the dollar or the pound, whatever area we live in, and in our own communities, turning that currency into a force of good. Instead of interest being the killer of communities, we can take out from the money system. If everybody buys into it, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and all the communities decide, okay, this month we each put 100 shekels, pounds, dollars, euros, collectivise that money, and whatever needs done, a town hall, a new bit of works, take that money in sterling, pounds, euros, and purchase it. Put it into a bank first of all, collect it in their own bank, hold it there, and that becomes a slush fund. And for everybody who's put their 100 shekels, euros, dollars into it, then we give them, like for like, one for one, a new currency. Call it the dinar, the gold dinar, right, just for talking sake. So we have one gold dinar for 1 euro, shekel, pound, or whatever. And everybody uses this gold dinar as a method of exchange. But instead of, and it's just a transaction, so everybody pays for it, the taxi, the hairdresser. So you're in this community, you use that. You still have the other currency in circulation for a time anyway. But in that community, everybody uses the gold dinar instead of whatever currency they were using previously. The money, and then each month people pay into whatever they want. So the money supply for the gold dinar would be keep on going through, because each month people would transfer their £100 sterling, shekels or euros into gold dinars for 100 gold dinars. So the currency each month will be increasing naturally. And then the money that won't sit idly, but the euros, sterling, whatever, can then go into building whatever needs to be built, a hospital, a school. That money then builds it. So something that costs, you collectivise all the money from the town. Within a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever, you get 100,000. With that 100,000, you build a school, a hospital. I'm just saying figures here, but whatever it takes, 1 million, 2 million, you build it, and then you don't have interest applied on for 30 years or more. Because the PPI schools and the hospitals that Blair put out there, for 30, 40 years or longer, the interest rates or the management costs, whatever it is you want to call it, is 3 or 4 times more than what it costs, or maybe even more than that, what it costs to build. Instead of getting something that costs and then using a currency locally, instead of going to the banks and asking for this money, or as the government have done, set up these, whatever they've set up, the PPI funds, so that we end up paying extortionate rates over a long period, taking more money out of the coffers. We wouldn't have to face as much austerity with the amount of wastage that went on under the Tony Blair years. Money disappearing from one hand into the other hand, from one part of the Rothschild banking cabal and Freemasonic devil-worshipping system into the other, money laundering it, washing it through society and coming out as a debt and charging it back to us and saying, oh, your country's in debt. Well, hold on a goddamn picking minute. The same money that went through the system and ended up in the same bloody hands of the Rothschild banking cabal, how can that be a debt register to the system when you've ended up taking it back again? It's a crazy, messed up system, but the more you analyse and the more you look into it, it just ends up driving you crazy. The bottom line is, it's corrupt, it's bankrupt. There has to be a new system to replace this corrupt system. And God willing, it's not exclusively Islamic. It was held by the Christians and the Jews, and it's called charging no interest at source in a more beneficial and prosperous society would envelop. We wouldn't have war, greed, pestilence, and famine and disease, and all these boom and busts and fake wars that, where the Rothschild banking cabal backs both sides of the wars, because it's good business, because no matter who wins, you're going to end up winning. Decimated societies, it means the infrastructure has to be rebuilt, etc., etc., boom and bust. This is all controlled by a group of people. Less than 1%, we can now put a figure on it, are controlling 99% of the world's resources. And they're devil-worshipping Kabbalists of the Freemasonic persuasion, who, as I say, get round together in 3-on-3, a group of 9 members of the Royal Arts, and chant wicked sayings to bring wicked forces to bear, and their wickedness knows no bounds, their evilness knows no bounds, their cover-up of their dastardly deeds, of their human sacrifices. This is what we're seeing. This is the sick, sacrificial element of the Masons, where they can take vulnerable people from mental institutions, from children's homes, and put them through ritual abuse, passing from one paedophile gang to another. I give you the name of a girl from Aberdeenshire called Holly Gregg. Holly Gregg, do you all know what that girl went through? Do you know her at all? This should be looked at a lot. Holly Gregg. This poor girl has been subject through the Masonic. She suffers from Down syndrome. She's been put through the most ritual, sickening, vile Masonic abuse from judges, lawyers, from high-level Masons, from her father, her uncle, who walked in and their bestial act happening on her with her father, was threatened that if he said anything he would be killed. He was threatened with violence, and he was killed for daring to speak against what was happening. And you know what? His death was given It's an accident, eh? There we go. Because he stood against, I tried to make a stand to help save a poor wee lassie from the ritual slaughter of a Masonic, devil-worshipping system. Who's going to stand up for these innocents? Who's going to stand up for the people who are being tortured and abused by these sick bastards of society? Is there anybody out there? Is this just going to continue? A sick world, unless we make a stand to change it and try and bring better justice and fairness to all, then we're doomed. Captain Manning said, we're doomed, we're doomed, we're doomed. Well, like I say, we can change it, we can change the status quo, we can bring about a better system of government, we can get rid of these corrupt bastards who are killing society, if only we try. So all I'm saying, we need to try to get rid of these crackpots who are killing innocent people, who are destroying society with their wickedness and evilness. And I'm going to take a wee break now, and we'll get somebody on for a wee chat for a wee minute. I'll play a wee tune here and get it loaded up in time. And it's called Interest-Free Money. Would you believe? Interest-free money. And it's just a wee suggestion, you know, that how we can bring change would be to use this system of not charging interest at money at the source, and it would take away a lot of the unfairness. Just a thought.
We want to know, when do we want to know? Interest-free money. Interest-free money. We want to know, when do we want to know? We want interest-free. What do we want? Interest-free money. We want it now. No. Give us your money. Interest-free. We want our money. Interest-free. We want to know. We want to know. Interest-free money. We demand it. We want to know. When do we want it? No.
Interest-free money. We demand it. We want it. We want it now. When do we want it? Now. We want interest-free. What do we want? Interest-free money. We want it now. 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 Give us our money. Interest-free. We want our money. Interest-free. Interest-free. Interest-free.
Interest free. Why can't we get it? Where are we going to get it? It's not too much to ask, is it? Not too much to ask that we play the Tony Watt goal again, is it?
Just about on the move as Messi struck it, got across comfortably.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember, not just for the rest of his career, but for the rest of his life. Xavi, of all people, to make the mistake. Mascherano can't get back. Decent touch to get it out of his feet, and it's a super finish. And we're now on the verge of a monumental upset here. What a finish for such a young man. Well, 7 minutes for Celtic to hold on to one of the great results in their history.
He has no fear. Tony Watt. A night that will surely live long in the memory, regardless of what might happen now. Messi.
No. Right. Right, so what the BBC said last week and what they continue to say this week, that he's innocent, I find it hard to believe, and I find totally astonishing that after all this time, within a couple of hours of the statement from Lord McAlpine's solicitor QC, that he comes out and says this, so he's either been nobbled in some way, shape or form. So the rest of the evidence, Tom Watson or any other investigative journalist, get in about this and sort this out. Because this is sick and disgusting. These are people who ask for us to vote them in as part of the democratic system. And we do this to innocent people. We do it to poor people who... It's just beyond belief. It's sickening beyond belief. And sorry, just took a wee second out there. I'm going to introduce a fine gentleman to the chat. After my opening little chat there for 80 minutes, that was my opening gambit for 10. Now we're going to bring some sanity to the proceedings here. A well-known, renowned blogger, an internet Bampot of some ill repute, a fine gentleman, a good friend. We welcome the one and only Henry Clarkson.
And a very good afternoon to all the Bampots out there, fellow Bampots.
Yes, indeed.
I'm proud of it.
Yes, we're all proud of it. It's a badge of honour now to be called an internet Bampot. When Shug Keevans brought it out, little did they know that we would take it and run with it and say, hey, if that's what we are, then fine. What are you, you sellout bastard?
One of his finest moments. That's what he'll be remembered for. Well done, Hugh.
Let's concentrate on Hugh. What about his other fine quotes, that there would never come a time in recent and there would never be a time in his lifetime where Scottish clubs would get to the last 16, as we sit within a point or two from getting there. We would never get to these fine heights. A guy who said we would get humped by Man United and we ended up humping them. So what a trumpet.
Yep. The thing is, guys like that read what a certain audience wants to read. Sorry, they write what a certain audience wants to read, and that's why they do it. I tend not to listen to phone-ins, and I certainly don't read any newspapers. I don't buy newspapers. I don't listen to the phone-ins because, a lot of the time they're just doing it to wind people up. Doesn't mean that they don't mean some of it, but they're irrelevant. That's what I'm really coming around to saying there. They're irrelevant. Keevans is irrelevant. Trainer is irrelevant.
Increasingly so, thanks to people like yourself who are providing material for people to read and to provide thought-provoking discussion, because their nihilist argument is just to brainwash people into their nihilist way of thinking. It's Armageddon. So, you're right.
Absolutely. I mean, it is mind control. It's control of what the population is thinking, setting the agenda and putting a spin on it. And a lot of people don't even realise how effective that is. They presume because they know somebody's an idiot, therefore they're immune to what's going out there. But it's actually more sophisticated than that, more subtle than that. And the science, it is a science, the science of mass psychology, going all the way back to Edward Bernays in the early part of the 20th century. It's a very, very finely tuned science. And corporations with advertising companies and so on, they study this stuff very, very seriously, in great detail, and they understand the effects of, certain, what do you call it, words that trip a certain response. They understand certain images. That's why you get corporations every now and again doing a rebranding thing. It's not just because you're bored with the colours. There are certain things that they understand about the power of symbols which have an effect on people. And it is very subtle, but it is also proven, and that's the significant thing. The science is there to back it up, and it's proven. So just because you know somebody's at it doesn't mean that they still don't get on your radar in a way that you're not aware of. You have to be very aware of how they're doing it. Either that or just blank them out altogether. And the best way, I think, with most of these people is to blank them out altogether, because they are just generally the noise that's screaming the voice of reason, drowning out the voice of reason that can be heard. There's an awful lot of very, very good bloggers. I don't count myself as one of the foremost of them at all. I just write occasional things when I feel like somebody hasn't said something. But generally,
but for me, that's the best kind of blogger, because you'll do it when it comes to you. Myself, I mean, I could rattle out shows every single night of the day. Sometimes I think maybe then I'll just be doing it just to talk gibberish all the time. So it's better to do something when it touches your heart, and then you get more response and you get more things. So it's better coming in the way you do, instead of just doing one every day just for the sake of it. I think bloggers will do that, and there is great bloggers out there, but just doing it repeatedly just for the sake of it. Well, suppose people have to do that if that's what they feel, but for yourself, I value people yourself who come in when you know someone like yourself is doing it. We know it's something's came at you and you've thought about it, and you say, oh, hold on, I want to challenge this just for the sake of it. So that's why I put you up as someone who when you put something out there, it's got real meaning and thought behind it. And I'm sure other people out there listening share those feelings, because that one you did on the psychopaths, and you're touching on it again with Edward Bernays, the stuff of how these people are pre-programmed psychopathic robots and how they're disseminating their filth amongst the masses for a reason, and the agenda they keep hidden. But it's always, there's always a method, it's a means of control, and whatever they want to sell or whatever message you want to put across, then they have to implant in the minds of people. And you're right, the best method to save yourself from these is to tune out, drop out, don't listen to Trainer, don't listen to Keevans, because that's the only sane, sensible thing, and listen to like-minded people, listen to all the heel media boys or Celtic people talking about it, and that helps you shielding yourself away from these suit takers, sellouts who are dragging us into the mud. And crack on, bro.
Oh, you're absolutely right. This is absolutely something you said there. I've just made the connection. Tuning out, because one of the key things in dealing with a psychopath, if you've identified a psychopath in ordinary life, one to one, and they are prevalent. I should maybe just re-emphasise at this point for people that aren't up to speed with the previous conversations that a psychopath is very rarely an axe-wielding mass murderer. Very few psychopaths get to that level of clumsiness, if you like. Most psychopaths operate in a very sneaky way, manipulate people, do psychological damage to somebody. They get their jollies out of destroying somebody's life or leaving somebody wrung dry, and then they move on to their next target. They are predators, essentially predators on human spirit and energy. And a very good friend of mine, Thomas Sheridan, has written a couple of great books. That's Thomas Sheridan, not Tommy Sheridan. Thomas Sheridan from Ireland. He's written a couple of great books which I cannot recommend highly enough. The first one's called Puzzling People, and the second one is called Defeated Demons, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. They are essential reading. And Thomas's insight basically is to identify the predators in our midst, the psychopaths in our midst, and to make you realise that the things that you think are your fault are actually just the result of their ability to manipulate your emotions, to delude you into thinking that they are something else, and then to leave you high and dry once they're gone when they wanted. So the only way you can deal with these people, you don't get even with them. The only way you can really deal with them is to identify them and then no contact ever again. That's a key phrase. No contact ever again. Sometimes, of course, that's simply not possible. You can be the son or the daughter of a psychopathic parent, and no contact ever again isn't quite feasible at that moment. But whenever it's possible, no contact ever again is an absolute essential. And the closer you can get to that, the better. And that's the way I feel about our media, because our media is part of a psychopathic control grid. The psychopathic control grid encompasses media, government, the army, the banks, the corporations, all these things that essentially rule our life, hence control grid. And the media has a large part to play in that. And it's very interesting that the psychopath, Rupert Murdoch, is now in the front foot attacking the BBC because of a couple of little opportunities that have presented themselves to him. Now, the BBC has made a couple of mistakes, and there's no doubt that there's good questions to answer about how Savile and company got away with it for so long. But that doesn't mean that there are no good journalists in the BBC who are determined to get to the heart of this, including exposing the people within the BBC who have got a case to answer. But we see straight away Murdoch in the front foot. Suddenly there's no talk in Sky about phone hacking or any of these other things. This is Fox News and the Murdoch rags are attacking the BBC, the bungling babe in crisis. That's a good example of psychopathic control grid in action.
Yeah.
Immediately trying to manipulate people into that's very loud. Trying to manipulate people's attitudes to spin their opinion, and by manipulating what like that, they are going to get away with it. So you disengage from these. You disengage from the Sun and the London Times and anything else that he prints. You disengage from Sky. I've not had Sky for years and years and years. I know that's hard for a lot of people that want to watch their football, but that's part of this psychopathic thing. Give you something you think you want in order to get into your head and adjust it. So it's a big issue. And for all the BBC's faults, and there's plenty, the fact that it is trying to address this child abuse issue head on means that we should support it and address its other shortcomings at some time in the future after they've addressed the priority, which is to expose how this thing works, what you were talking about earlier on. There is Freemasonry involved, there is all sorts of cultism involved. But essentially we're dealing with different manifestations of a psychopathic control grid, and they will use whatever is available to them to further their ends. It might be a Freemason structure, or it might be the Catholic Church in Ireland, and it might be something else. It doesn't matter to them what it is. There'll be Catholics in one country, Protestants in another country, if that's what gets them ahead. But the essential thing at the bottom of it all is we're looking at psychopaths, and people need to really start to understand the nature of a psychopath, because it lies at the heart of everything that's wrong with the world.
People use a phrase, and I've heard people saying, I've tried to correct me, and say, oh, sociopaths. Is there a distinction? Is there a difference? Are they the same? What is it? What is it?
In essence, they're the same. The word sociopath was coined in the 50s after the Hitchcock movie Psycho. And the American psychologists were getting a bit concerned because all their literature dealing with psychopaths had almost become redundant, because the public perception, again, this is something to think about, the public perception of a psychopath had been so heavily influenced by the character of Norman Bates in that Hitchcock movie. Now, the irony of it is, Bates isn't a psychopath. Bates is, if anything, you look at and say, probably a paranoid schizophrenic. But what he wasn't was a psychopath. And when people started thinking that a psychopath was this guy that starts people in the showers and keeps his mother in the attic in a rocking chair, they decided that the best wheeze was just to rebrand the condition and to stop talking about psychopath and to coin a new expression, which they decided would be sociopath. Now that was, 50, 60 years ago. They're now coming back to the position where psychopath is actually the most accurate and best word to use for this condition. And sociopath has been phased out. But even within professions like the psychiatric profession, you will get psychopaths operating within that. You know, this is the amazing thing about the psychopaths. They get everywhere. So there's a certain amount of willful misdirection going on from characters that are inside all of these institutions, the education institution, you name it, they're in there. So recently they've started going back to using psychopath and phasing out sociopath. But any time you ever see the word sociopath, just substitute psychopath for that and you're back on track. And the same thing goes for narcissistic tendencies. Narcissistic is just a euphemism for the same thing, a psychopath. And with women, we tend to talk about borderline personality disorder. Again, that's a crock of crap. A borderline personality disorder is an invention of the pharmaceutical industry, which knew that they couldn't get away with producing a drug that would cure psychopathy. There is no cure for psychopathy. But there was no prospect of pulling the wool over anybody's eyes with a wonder drug that was going to cure a psychopath. Because women tend not to be violent, they have far more subtle ways of manipulating people and wringing them dry and destroying them. But we don't have the same correlation, because although most psychopaths are not axe murderers, every now and again you do get one. That helps to strengthen this misperception that the psychopath is a murderer. So, to invent a brand new condition called borderline personality disorder, which is a rebranding of psychopathy, that gave the pharmaceutical companies an opportunity to open up a new market and to put these drugs on the market, which would just zombify all these women to the point where they were kind of not functioning at the top of their abilities. Probably still doing damage, but nothing really, really noticeable, if you understand. Nothing to the same level that they would operate at if they weren't heavily sedated or zombified. So that's the borderline personality disorder is crankery from the pharmaceutical companies, which was adopted by the corrupt element of the medical profession. Rubber stamp, stuck in the market, let's make money here, and nobody get killed, so they call it success. But it's fake, you know. The essence of the condition has to be understood from the point of view of the various aspects of psychopathy, which I've best understood for the layperson by reading Thomas Sheridan's book, Puzzling People, and there are plenty of other books by academics such as Robert Hare, that's H-A-R-E, Robert Hare, and Martha Stout. There too, that should be in everybody's reading list after they've done Puzzling People as an introduction. Robert Hare is probably the foremost expert in psychopathy in the world, and he's got various books dedicated to different aspects of psychopathy. For example, psychopathy in the corporations. A great book called Snakes in Suits, and that goes into how psychopathy prevails in the world of corporate business, corporate finance. Exactly the sorts of people you don't want to give control to are in fact the guys who are sitting in the chair in the boardrooms of the biggest corporations in the world. So it's all around us, and what they do to get their jollies is to suck energy out of people by inflicting pain on them. Child abuse is just another angle of that, another aspect, another facet of the same horribly evil condition. It's the very essence of these people's nature. And it is evil. We're conned into thinking that there is some good in everybody. And that's one of the things that's drummed into us right from the moment we can start to understand the language. There's always good in everybody. No, there isn't. Some people, there is just no goodness in at all. None whatsoever. And that's a bit of a shock when you have to realise that. But the psychopath essentially is a creature similar to a human, but without any humanity, and absolutely devoid of any goodness, any moral virtue, any conscience, any remorse. None of those things apply to the psychopath.
Can I ask you, would you say these type of people are on the increase in recent times?
No, I think the number is much the same. I think what's happening is we're getting a bit more awareness of it. There are certain people who are more tuned into how these things work. Plus the fact that these people aren't as bright as they think they are. They tend to think short term rather than long term. And so we're at a stage now where we've had the world run by that psychopathic mentality for decades and decades, and they're rotten, impossible plans that were unfeasible. They are now starting to fall apart, hence the collapse of the banking system, hence the unravelling of the old media system being replaced by free spirits that can crop up on the internet and actually disseminate truth, the sort of truth that would have been screened out by the letters editor in a mainstream newspaper, and so on and so forth. So partly their own deficiencies are leading to their downfall in all the institutions, and partly people are more clued up and can identify these people a bit faster. It took about an hour of internet googling for the initial first wave of Bampots to uncover Craig White's background, while the mainstream media was flanneling on about a billionaire.
And can I say something, right? When
yep.
a friend who came in called Tristan Lockery,
yes.
I watched in astonishment myself how people were all over it, from Celtic persuasion, Rangers persuasion, the last case being the good brother himself, the Rangers tax case, where he tweeted just a couple of weeks ago and says no discernible wealth and a couple of dead co's. And so, I mean, it's remarkable to see that in action, and people just able to tap it in and do it. I mean, it's frightening, but it's beautiful in action to see it happening. And what it does, it places a very powerful tool in the hand of the little guy that, like you say, for a long time they kept the internet quiet because they must have sat there going, this is brilliant, but surely to goodness, if we allow this to happen, it could be the seed of our own downfall that we're going to give them. And the old saying of the capitalists, the flaw in the capitalist system, the capitalists will sell you the rope to hang them, and this internet could be the rope to hang these bastards with. I mean, the fact that we can collectivise in a way that we can disseminate so much information out there, and we can bring people to account in minutes, in an hour, like you said, whereas decades, years ago, the control, the part of it was we couldn't collectivise, we couldn't really find out what was going on, and we couldn't share that, it couldn't go viral. So now one person comes up with a nugget of information, a gem, an element of truth, a whistleblower, whatever, and then boom, it's everywhere. You know, no matter what subject you're doing, it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's all across everywhere. Somebody spoke about it, everybody knows about it, and this is a power, a genie in the bottle that they can't put in, apart from closing it down, or even heard them spoke about it. Do you feel that with what you've said there, they are short-termists because the reptilian type brains, I mean, as David Icke spoke about it, I'll not get into too much depth, but the reptilian part of these crackpots, they can only, you know, they can only keep to a small time frame. Do you think that the measures they're bringing out now are going to be far more heinous and catastrophic for humanity, because now they're trying to plug the back door? Everything's getting found out. They're getting found out, like you said, for the banking cabal, the media, all the collusion and the, you know, the bestial, the evil acts. They're getting found out. So what is the solution for them? For these psychopaths, they've got an end game, i.e., the wipeout or the extermination of as many people as possible. Shut up. If anybody comes out and exposes them, then the general de rigueur is to shut them down, close them down, kill them. I mean, the whole movement, the whole truth movement, the whole internet. What measures do you envisage these psychopaths inflicting on humanity and now in the near future? Because if they're losing control, if the people are rebelling, and if people whose feelings can't be closed down again, once people realise that we've been lied to, we've had everything stolen, we've been treated like little kids, and it's all psychopaths, critical mass will reach at one point, and we're going to bring the whole shit down. What measures do you envisage these bastards using to stop us doing taking back what's been stolen from us?
Well, they won't stop at nothing. There are things that we can't even dream of that they would do in a heartbeat. It would be the first thing that occurs to them, and the last thing that we would ever think of. There's a classic psychological test, where it's a kind of a riddle. It's a question, and it's a question that was put to various people, and it runs along these lines. A woman goes to her mother's funeral and catches sight of this fella that she just wants to have, but she's never met him before, but she, can't really say falls in love, but she wants this fella. Doesn't get contact with him, doesn't get a phone number, and after the funeral he's gone and she can't find out who he was. A week later, her father is dead. Now, when they ask this question, who committed the murder, when they ask this question, I don't know if you know the answer to it. Why did, who killed him and what was the motive? And the motive was, it was the woman that killed her in order to have another funeral and get a chance to maybe see this fella again that she wanted to cop hold of. Now, the intriguing thing about this ridiculous scenario is that when they ask this question to lots of people, most people are kind of going, I don't know, why would she have killed him? The psychopaths in prisons got it straight away. They immediately said, oh, she wanted to see Bloke again. Didn't miss a beat, So we're dealing with a completely different mentality here. I mean, how many of us would sort of think, oh, I really fancied that woman that I saw in the black dress at the back of the church or wherever the funeral was. How many of us would think, I better kill somebody else who's a better chance of seeing her again? This is the sort of thing that occurs to a psychopath immediately, and then they only have to weigh up whether or not they can get away with it. There's no issue of conscience involved in that, in arranging another funeral. So we cannot underestimate the lengths that these creatures will go to in order to try and get their own way, whatever that's involved. So, things will get very, very tasty. On the other hand, the trick is not to engage in their system. We live in a system which is essentially a slave system, a Babylonian system, and the less we can be involved in it, the better. The safer you are by disengaging from the things that it regards as absolutely essential for your, normalcy, your normal citizenship. You don't have a television, what's wrong with you, that kind of thing. Disengage from these things and study the alternative points of view. And a lot of the alternative news is tinfoil nonsense, but only by sort of having a look around it and taking in all the arguments and making up your own mind, do you get anywhere? I find David Icke a very interesting case at the now, because for a long while I thought all this lizard stuff and reptilian shapeshifters and UFOs and all that, I thought, what's he doing there? Because the rest of his site, there's some very, very useful information. He was talking about the paedophile rings at the heart of the government 15 and 20 years ago. But I've since found out, because I know some, a few people who are quite prominent in the alternative news circles, whatever you want to call it. There comes a point where a lot of these people, as you mentioned, will get taken out or will get bumped off or whatever. Comes a point where you come to the attention of the spooks, and they won't just go straight in with a hobnail boots. They'll try to discredit you initially. They'll try to cause you other problems. You might have some hassles with your bank. Things can go wrong there, but they'll make your life uncomfortable. And what somebody told me recently at a convention where there was quite a lot of alternative speakers presenting alternative news people presenting very, very informative information about the history of banking, the history of war, the history of various things. Excellent day. It was in Edinburgh. And during one of the breaks, I was sitting at a table with a few of these people, one of whom had recently started coming under attack and having his website hacked and various things like that. And one of the other speakers at this thing said, "Aye, that's them starting to notice you. This happened to me a while ago, years ago, and that means you've now come onto the radar." And they said, what you need to do sometimes is to put out stuff that's a bit loopy, because that gets the dogs off. It takes the heat off a wee bit if you start looking as if you're losing your marbles. You're not quite as concerned. So David Icke, for example, can come on, if he came on the mainstream media and started talking about details substantiated by official documents, if he was going through all that stuff about, for example, child abuse, paedophilia rings, they wouldn't get very far before they started talking about UFOs and reptile shapeshifters and all that. That's not the way the information is going to come out. It's not going to come out in the mainstream media at first. It's going to come out on the internet. And the trick is to be able to read these alternative sites and filter out the stuff that's just there as a kind of a buffer. At the heart of these types of sites is a lot of genuinely good information which you can follow up yourself and then check the sources of, and just put all the other stuff to one side, the Roswell stuff, the fake moon landings, all that kind of stuff. Just forget about all that. The central issue is the power structure, and anything that is not the essence of the power structure is just a shield that is got up for personal self-preservation reasons for the most part. So it's an interesting take, because as I say, for a long time I thought I had completely lost it. And I didn't take him seriously. And only recently have I started to think, now I see why he's doing that. Now I see why he's doing that. It's a safety thing. And some of it is kind of coded, because the reptile stuff, it's just nonsense to suggest that there's some kind of Doctor Who thing going on here where these people turn into different creatures. But there is a wee kernel of truth at the back of it, because the one thing that you can do with a psychopath to physically identify them as a psychopath is to run a brain scan. And under a CAT scan, if you stimulate, or rather if you present images, for example, to a normal person and to a psychopath, you will see different parts of the brain being stimulated according to whether it's a regular human being or whether it's a psychopath. And regular human beings will respond to emotional stimulus. The prefrontal cortex part of the brain, the front of the brain, the bit that we've got that other animals don't have. Essentially, that's where a lot of our humanity seems to be associated with. So there is action happening in the prefrontal cortex of the brain when we see a sight that moves us, whether it makes us feel pity or warmth or empathy or love or whatever. But that part of the brain is almost completely dormant in a psychopath, and all their neural processes processing, all their brain waves are actually taking place in the more primitive part of the brain, which is called the R complex, R. And the R stands for reptile. Now that's really interesting. That's a part of the brain that is the same structure as the lower animals beneath the mammals. The reptiles and the birds have got the same kind of structure in their brain, and as you move up to the mammals, you get a more complicated additional lobes, and then finally the human being, they have a very well developed prefrontal cortex, totally absent in crocodiles, totally absent in lizards, and so on and so forth. So I find it quite interesting that in a kind of a lateral, subtle way, our complex actually hit the nail on the head when it was named, even before there was any awareness of psychopathy. There was a recognition here that there is a part of our brain that works at a far lower level than the human being. And
can I interject here very briefly?
Yep.
These reptiles, do they have a backbone?
Reptiles have a backbone, yeah.
They do, yeah. I was going to say, we give it. But the reptilian phrase, for me, I've always, from knowing just a small smidgen of Islamic material on this, on how Iblis or Satan, the fallen jinn, as it would be known in Arabic, yes, how he refused to prostrate to Adam, the powers that these elements of fire, the Satan, the satanic creatures, that they are able to, if you like, shapeshift, or have the ability to possess bodies of animals, of certain animals, and even people. You know, the unseen and the satanic forces that. So for me, as outlandish as most people would think, I don't, and I would never, even if it was, I would never dismiss anything that David Icke says. And for some of the stuff that he said, I mean, to ET, for me, an ET, an extraterrestrial source, you know, so for something that we can't explain can be put down as an ET, yeah. So what we talk about just now is creatures who could fly and interact with humans, that maybe that was possible for humans, that the jinn that the Arabic speak about, that the beings made of fire, they were able to interact and humans were able to see them. Then the easiest explanation would be, for future generations, like people at Ike would say, well, there was a previous time when extraterrestrial forces were coming to this planet and were in direct communication. How else would they be able to build such intricate works of art like the temples in Egypt and various other places, where the geometry of these ancient burial sites, or whatever they are, you know, the pyramids and the Incas and in China and in various places, you know, and the geometry and the way this could have only have came from a source that came from, I don't know how we could describe it, well, an unseen force, or some force that we can't place on, but there was something that happened back in the ancient times, that how they connected and how it was connected, that we can't even begin to even tap into. So there was something that walked about or existed in this planet. I don't know how long ago or whatever, but there was something that we maybe have tried to explain as being, you know, ETs, or that's what maybe David Icke says, and the stuff about him, the shape shifting stuff. Well, that fits into a narrative and stuff that I've been told on the Islamic side regarding how the ability of Satan and the jinn, basically the creatures of fire, how they're able to take the beings or take over the bodies of animals or even humans. And as I said, I'm taking this purely from Islamic text and stuff that I've read and I've heard and I've studied on. And so anything that David Icke has said on that, I've never ever dismissed him, and I've always, you know, and the stuff like you say, you know, stuff like that, my craziness could be my subconscious way of me not getting a tap on the door, because the way I've been described in the radio and whatever, has been a total crackpot and mad as a thingway. So I'm fine if that keeps me out for being thingway. being a threat to them, that I can be labelled so easily, then fine, I'm just a mad crackpot crying internet Bampot. I mean, if that makes them leave me alone and keeps me off the radar, then c'est la vie. Maybe I've done it subconsciously. I'm a pre-programmed subconscious revolutionary, maybe.
A lot of it, we tend to ignore our intuition an awful lot of the time. Anybody who's ever had an encounter with a psychopath that's left them, homeless, or their marriage is broken up, or they've had some personal catastrophe that's drained them. When they look back on it, they always realise that at the beginning of this relationship they had with the psychopath, there were flags waving, there were red flags waving somewhere in their subconscious or even in their conscious. Their intuition was saying, whoa, danger, danger, danger. And they tend to talk themselves out of it, they let their head overrule what their heart is telling them. This is a society where our intuition is undervalued. We are a left brain society, if you want to look at it that way. The left side of the brain is the very kind of sequential, logical, rational part of our intelligence. The right-hand side of the brain is the creative side that makes connections between things that aren't immediately obvious. It's the artistic side. It's the side that enables people to come up with visions and insights and great leaps of discovery. Now, we are in a very left-sided society, a left-hand side of the brain society, and again, this comes back to the fact that psychopaths are not creative people. Even if they're in the fields of the arts, they tend to be plagiarists rather than innovators. So, before we had psychology and psychiatry, there were still people in every community who had special insights, special creativity, special gifts for hitting the nail on the head. We usually call them artists. They could be visionaries or seers or whatever it happens to be. And in all of these societies all around the world, these people would produce stories or metaphors or symbols or whatever to explain complex issues in society in terms that people could get a grip of, and it would help them to understand what they're dealing with. So whether it's in Islamic tradition, whether it's in Jewish or Christian tradition, or whether it's in some other society that's not monotheistic, you will always have these archetypal myths where you have the jinn in Islam, you have devils and serpents. There's a serpent. What's at the very start of the Bible? First thing that goes wrong is a serpent, a reptile. Reptile comes in there and screws up the whole thing. Everything's going well until this reptile appears. And that's symbolic of what else can you call it? A psychopathic intervention, a manipulative, destructive, predatory action that has no other purpose than to spoil somebody else's day. And it's a symbol. These are symbolic. We get them in fairy stories. We get stories about trolls and goblins and big bad wolf or whatever. We have dragons. These things are invented because they're a projection of our consciousness. They are invented to enable us to bring to the front of our brain something that's kind of bubbling away at the back, and we put a form on it so we can identify it with a metaphor or a symbol. When we see somebody, it's just not right, and we think, oh, it's the big bad wolf, or it's a reptile, or it's a snake. That guy's a right snake. It's the sort of thing you say. People that have never even seen a snake will still look at somebody that they don't particularly feel comfortable around, and they'll say, what a snake, and so on and so forth. So all of these things have got their core truth. There is a core truth in these stories that come from native wisdom, come from received wisdom, come from cultural heritage, myths and stories and legends that live on and on and on, because they serve a purpose. That is part of our ability to survive, is that we keep the stuff that enhances our survivability and we reject the stuff that doesn't work. So the great myths in our culture, the archetypal myths, the absolutely fundamental things of good and evil and so on and so forth, these things existed through the arts long before they were identified by psychology. And people could grasp this image, whether it's of the devil fighting an angel, or whether it's a snake trampled underfoot, or whether it's some other representation of the fight between good and evil. At a consciousness level, that's exactly what's happening. It doesn't need to actually look like a lizard, but our consciousness has intuitively recognised an evil which we can then identify as being something scary, like a crocodile or a snake. So that's what's happening there, you know. The reality is at a consciousness level. It's not a left brain sequential, rational, computer type of level. That's not the way human beings really work. It's the way the corporate control grid wants us to think we work. They want us to identify ourselves with numbers and fill in objective questionnaires, you know, yes or no, 1, 2, 3, poor, average, good. Everything's got to be ticked in a box. That's not the way human beings really work. That's not the way a composer writes a symphony. It's not the way an artist paints a picture. It's not the way a director makes a movie by just ticking one box out of 3 or 4. They allow their consciousness to expand and to roam way outside the boxes, and then make 2 connections, 3 connections, 4 connections, bring them all together into a form which you can absorb. And by doing that, a deeper message gets through right to the heart of your consciousness. So a piece of music that's uplifting, really uplifting, has got something in it there that you couldn't have done by a computer algorithm. You couldn't have worked it out just by sequentially analysing notes, you know, producing a mathematical equation to produce that particular noise. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. A great artist playing his music 2 or 3 nights in a row will play it differently every night, and it will be the correct solution every night, because that's the way the consciousness of the artist is responding to the moment that he's in as he's performing. So, you know, this is the level that the psychopaths are frightened of, because they cannot exist at that level. That terrifies them. That's not their territory. They are on away ground. If the battleground is on the level of the consciousness, on the right-hand side of the brain, on the emotions and the intuition, on all the positive things that make us human, they are right out of their depth. And the way to win the battle in the long term is not to engage them on the lower ground down at their level, which is where they want to drag us to, is to stay above them and just leave them to it. Now, a great analogy that I always like to come back to is a crocodile. If you know how a crocodile works, and it's not that complicated, frankly, if you get to within, I think it's 2 feet 9 or something like that, of a crocodile's eyeball, it will snap at you. It just so happens that that's a distance which you can usually catch you. If you're 2 foot 10 away, it will stand there gaping all day. You're just not in range. That's the way a crocodile works, and when you know that, then you know how to have a crocodile in your midst, if you like, without getting bitten, without getting hurt. Understanding that you don't need to engage with that thing, you just need to keep a certain distance from it and you're okay, is crucial. You can do whatever you want with a crocodile. You're never going to train it. You're never going to train a crocodile to sit up and beg or to walk to heel or whatever. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. You can do that with a dog. You can't do it with a crocodile. That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with that kind of consciousness. The way to solve the crocodile problem is not to exterminate all the crocodiles. It's just to know them for what they are and leave them to it in their own space. We don't need that space. We don't need to engage with them. And that's where we're at just now. We live in our own space. We live in our consciousness level. We prosper through our emotions, through our interactions with other human beings, through exchanging a smile, through having fellowship and real friendship. These are the things that make us feel alive, not having $21 trillion stashed away in an offshore account. We get more of a buzz out of just being with friends and having a good time, enjoying the warmth that you get from real fellowship. That's where we live. And if we allow ourselves to be dragged down to the level that the psychopaths want us to be at, then we're fighting it on their territory. That's not where we need to be. You know what I'm saying?
And see what you're just saying there? A good friend lived for a period in Palestine, and someone said to him, what are you doing over here? You brought your family here, 3 young children, your wife. This is a war situation. This is the craziest thing anybody could do, bring your family here. And he said to them, I said, look, I've lived here and I've lived there. He says, at least here, you know where your enemy is. It's the F-16, it's a gunship. He says, but in other places, he says, you've not been to Britain, but in Britain, you don't know where the enemy is, right? So what he's meaning is, the crocodiles are everywhere, ready to snap at you. You don't know where you're going to turn around the corner and they're going to be there. And in reality, what we've got, I mean, well, what we've got in this country, right? What he identified, we've got so much choice, we've got so much everything, but we don't have time for each other. Now, in the most totalitarian and brutal, despotic regime on the planet, I would dare to say, I mean, even in the most despotic guise of the South African government, they never turned F-16 gunships and Apache helicopter on their civilians. I mean, evil and bastard as they were, the South African government, you know, the Zionist government in Palestine and the Israelis there, what they're doing to the Palestinians is just beyond belief. But what they had in their community, and this is why I'm recalling this to yourself now, and my friend, and he said they had nothing. He says, but all they had was time for each other. All they had was time for each other. He said there was only 3 dishes available, and it was a combination of rice, peas, and chicken. Or it was peas, chicken, or rice. Or rice, chicken, peas, whatever. That was the only combination it was. So there wasn't much choice. The shops were empty. You had nothing really. But the blessed atmosphere of that place was that the people, the only thing they had was time for each other and real friendship and camaraderie. So they had the enemy, they knew what it was, but the psychopathic crocodiles were in their positions. But when they were left to their communities, then the times that my friend spoke about, that the times he had, and he still speaks about, has been some of the best times of his life. We're just sitting and talking to people who are in the same situation. They've not got nothing, so all they've got is time for each other, a wee bit of food, and just sitting there. And he says, and it was the best time of his life because, well, his kids played with freedom and laughter and joy with the other kids. Yeah, sure, the oppression when they walked out the house, when they walked out their community, when they had to go anywhere, the hardship began. So, but once they were in their houses, and there was no, they would just collectivise in a way that was beautiful and blessed. That really that the psychopaths on the other end of the F-16, they must be looking and saying, it's a sick lifestyle of being a psychopath is basically what I'm trying to say, and the blessed life of people who are not that way and who have been oppressed. I mean, the Palestinians, there can't be a people more oppressed on the planet on a continuous basis for the last 60 years than those blessed people. But what they've constructed and what they've got is something so special, that the bond of unity between each other. And that's all you need as human beings. All we need is a wee bit of food, a wee bit of shelter, and then the social cohesion of our fellow human beings. And with that, everything can be achieved. And no matter the most totalitarian, oppressive regime upon it, they can't break the spirit of these people. They're still there. They're refusing to walk away. They're refusing to give up their claim of just being left alone without psychopaths coming in and trying to move them off the land. The refugees, 6 million of them, still stay there saying, oh, we're not going anywhere. This is our land. How dare you take us out? You're just psychopaths. And, but you don't need anything other than just, humanity from your fellow human beings to exist in a blessed way.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we need an awful lot less than we tend to think we need. We need very, very little. We certainly don't need to spend, dozens of hours a week playing games on a computer or a lot of these things that a lot of us tend to do. We don't need that. What we do need is good relationships with our fellow human beings and good community spirit. And wherever that is strong, people are happy, regardless of how materially advanced they are. When people have got that real human connection to each other, that is the source of great joy and deep contentment, deep happiness.
Yeah. I'll just come in very briefly. the consumer society, the word consumer is a word in the Christian Bible for the devil. Right? The consumer society, what I was trying to say, in Palestine there is no consumer society. You've got nothing, right? In the Gaza Strip, you've got nothing apart from stuff that's smuggled in, and people have not got money, so it's just shared between the collective, you know. So it's anyway. Sorry for jumping in, bro. They've got nothing. They've not got nothing to consume them. So it enables them to live a better lifestyle than the one that we've got. And that's what my friend was saying to the people over there. They were saying, "Why are you coming here?" And he was looking at it, saying, "Well, hold on. The people over there have not got time to even say hi." And people let go of their claims to being relatives to people and just all about consuming themselves into the work ethic and more material bullshit. They're just wasted, you know. Whereas over there, they've not got that consumer society, so it doesn't consume their time and their efforts and take them away from the family structure, the things that are important. And that's what I was meaning. Anyway, crack on, bro. Sorry.
You're absolutely right, because it's a very, very pertinent point. The consumer society itself is an invention of Edward Bernays that I mentioned earlier on. Edward Bernays was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he came to America in the early part of the 20th century and applied Freud's psychological insights rather than to individual cases. He applied it to the masses, and that was his meal ticket for the rest of his life, that he could understand how to get a mass of people to think in a particular way. And one of the so-called problems that he identified when he was being consulted by companies and corporations, he identified this as a problem. Wait for it. The problem was that people were only buying what they needed. That was the problem.
It's a major problem. You want them to buy what you want them to have. You want them to buy what we're selling, and we want to buy them at all times. And it's not what they need, it's what we want them to need.
And he sussed out that the way for all these people to get even richer was to persuade people to buy what they want instead of just what they needed. And that is the birth of the consumer society. It's an incredible story when you read it. It is absolutely true. And if anybody wants a quick crash course on this, when I say quick, I mean an hour long, there is a fabulous documentary by Adam Curtis. You can find it on YouTube. It's called The Century of Self. The Century of Self by Adam Curtis. And part one begins where Bernays becomes an influential figure. And I would thoroughly recommend that to everybody. Once you've seen that, you'll want to watch the other 3 parts probably. It's 4 parts in all. But the first part is an hour long, The Century of Self. And it shows how Bernays was able to persuade, well, for a start, women to smoke. Women didn't smoke. It was regarded as unladylike and what have you. And this was a problem for the tobacco companies that they felt that were missing out on half of their potential sales. And Bernays solved that problem for them. And I'm not going to why, because the best way is just to watch the documentary. But he managed to work out the psychology that was required to get women to want to smoke. And that's the key thing. They thought they were making their own decision, deciding that they were going to be brave and independent and liberated by smoking. And that was exactly what he wanted them to think. And that's exactly what happened. So when you see that kind of level of manipulation coming from our corporations and advertising agencies, it makes you question how many things you just assume to be true have actually been installed there from, 1,000 different sources right from the beginning. Now, earlier on you mentioned how great technological achievements of the past couldn't possibly have been, done by humans of that era. But actually, that's one of the kind of classic examples of what they do. They make us think we're not capable of this. When you think about it, if it was up to one of these corporations to tell us whether or not it was possible for Mozart to write 41 symphonies, they would probably say no, it must have, come from somewhere else. The things that human beings can actually do It only takes one human being in a society to have the insight about how to get something done. It doesn't need everybody to realise it at the same time. It just takes one person who can choose to say, I know how we can solve this problem. We put a wheel on it. You know, and suddenly, oh God, a wheel. Bloody hell, that's good. Oh, that could catch on. It wasn't everybody inventing the wheel at the same time. It was probably one person that thought, I wonder what's happened if. You know? So all these great achievements of the past that apparently we can't recreate today, maybe that's just because the psychopathic society, the Babylonian system, has wiped out all the types of, not all the types, has wiped out that way of thinking, has kicked over the traces. In the early years of the Roman occupation of Britain, they sent an entire legion across the many straits to the south of Wales to exterminate the last few Druids. We're talking about a dozen Druids or whatever. And an entire legion was sent across to wipe these people out at enormous expense. I mean, the logistics of that operation were absolutely colossal. And they were sent there to stamp out the last of these keepers of the native knowledge. Because the Roman Babylonian psychopathic system, which we're always told is a great civilization, there was nothing of the sort. It was a psychopathic, fascist, evil military occupation. And the thing that terrified it the most was native wisdom, alternative thinking, a different mindset. And they were prepared to send an entire legion scouting all over Wales until they could finally exterminate the last of these Druids. And that's what we're up against, because the wisdom that came from those types of people, from those cultures, the alternative way of looking at things, the alternative solutions to problems, in fact, the solutions when there weren't any in the Babylonian system, these things were encouraged to believe never existed in the first place, couldn't have been possible, it couldn't have been done. A parallel would be today with the pharmaceutical industry, absolutely determined to monopolise disease care. You can hardly call it curing, but they want to stamp out all alternative remedies. They want everything to be registered and licensed under their system, and to wipe out all the kind of traditional remedies that threaten their monopoly. They would rather sell you a drug at £42 a tablet than have you aware of the fact that if you eat certain things, you won't get the disease in the first place. So, you know, these things, as I say, are drummed into us from an early age that we believe that we have a smaller potential than what we've actually got, that we couldn't possibly have achieved such and such a thing 2,000-3,000 years ago. It has to be people from out of the planet. No.
Let me phrase what I was saying there. The people who were building the pyramids at the time, right, were humans allied with the jinn, and the jinn. So it was the humans were part of doing it, but I was suggesting that, well, how would it be possible for people who had no means of transportation from Mexico or whatever? Well, suppose if the world was there wasn't the seas there, I suppose maybe how could they get from one place to the other and do it? But I suppose if the world was more compact in the thing, but no, I was just to clarify, I do definitely hear what you're saying as well, that how it could be used by the psychopaths to disprove or to invent something that human beings, because at all levels and at every stage, it's all about doing down the human achievement and all good things, because they want to dissuade us. I mean, one thing you said there, and I remember being told about it through a film, Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, how the East Timor government, the East Timor people were butchered by the Indonesian government at the time, way back in the 70s. An Australian film crew was killed. And what that was all about, as Noam Chomsky said, was that for that region, that the people there, I can't remember who it was it Stevenson? It was someone who had explored the region and had described these people as being almost angelic, like they were so, and it showed you in the description. I mean, it has to be to see it in the people's faces, and the simplicity of these people, and then they were butchered, they were killed. And Chomsky, his explanation was, it was frightening. It was more or less, and I have to agree with it, is more or less that the fact that they were an alternative, they were something different to a capitalist system. And as we've seen through Venezuela or Iran or any country who challenges the status quo of the United States hegemony of the whole planet, any people who stands against it has to be cruelly and mercifully crushed, because for any alternative to be there for mankind to see something different, it can't be allowed. It's not feasible. It's not possible for the, like you see, identified in a psychopathic mind, for something there to be an example. It's too much for them to handle. It has to be cruelly and mercifully crushed. So the East Timor people who were smiling and happy, who had a system of governance and society and way of living, that if it was able to be preserved, people could look at it and wonder and say, how beautiful is that? They don't use money. They don't use the financial system we use, you know. So,
Absolutely.
and how many societies have been decimated? Innocent people who people who have colonized, the white colonizers who went to the Americas, went to Africa or whatever, and just because they had something so precious, we couldn't stand it, because we had to impose, or the people who were going there, the psychopaths had to impose their way of life, because it was about control and domination. And as I say, so the last remnants of beautiful, individual societies cruelly crushed, like the Druids by the Romans, and it remains. And that's what, when I started the show and I was talking about how Islam, how it's been demonized, and the alternative, and very conveniently, how just in a few short years, how it can be demonized, when the message, just one simple message from that religion, and indeed all the three monotheistic religions, is don't charge interest with your fellow human beings, because it causes vast problems that you would never even be able to understand. So just don't deal with it and it'll be okay. And so that one small thing can't now be listened to in a rational way by the majority of the people, because instantly in the mind, anyone says Muslim or Islam, oh, they're terrorists, they're mad people, they're crazy. So, to demonize a whole people, so that it's very convenient that that message can now be trampled on and said, oh, it's just from my mind's of psychopaths or crackpots who are spouting that, So, and it's sad how these psychopathic system works, how it wants to crush and kill anything, like you said, is an alternative of something different.
You've hit the nail right in the head there. They want to stamp out the convincing evidence, the proof that there is actually a better way. They cannot coexist with a system that shows up the deficiencies of the psychopathic control grid, and therefore they stamp it out mercilessly on any pretext, weapons of mass destruction, or rebels in Libya, which is, rebels in Libya with CIA operatives, let's not kid ourselves about that, and so on, everywhere else. They must stamp this out. Another current example is the complete lack of mainstream media coverage of Iceland's solution to their banking crisis.
Exactly. And I've been spouting that at various times. I've tried to put it out there, and as usual, cut off from and various things, because the example they have got is there for everybody to see. I'll give you my take on it. If everybody's seen what they could do, right? The short-term problems that they faced, right? It would take away instantly the long-term solutions that are being imposed in Greece and all the countries in the EU, and the draconian methods that are going to take 10, 20, 30 years to get rid of. So the short, sharp shock, there's nothing really short and sharp about it. It's very sharp. The pain would be similar to what the pain is suffering just now. But the remedy, the bitter pill, would be to allow your country to deflate its currency. It would get more investment. It would produce a boom that would, in effect, raise the living standards within a couple of years, instead of this long, drawn-out process. But that example, like you said, where do you hear this at all? Tell us more in depth about it, what you've got, bro.
I just don't know enough about it. I know that from what I've seen, that they're solution. First of all, the people kicked out the politicians who were closing up to the banks and feathering their own nests and coming up with some solution that would dump all the debt onto the people for generations to come. Those politicians were unceremoniously fired, and a new legislature was installed with a mandate to get real with the banks. The bankers were jailed, others fled the country. Basically, they turned around to the banks and said, "It is your problem. You caused the problem. You pay for it. Simple as that. We're not paying debts that you have invented and conjured up out of thin air and just written on a piece of paper. Away and shaft yourselves. We're not going to do that. Here's the way it's going to work. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. And you're going to jail. But here's your deputies. You get your arse into that seat behind your big desk and start signing these pieces of legislation. And wipe out this debt, wipe out that debt, and an amnesty for this one, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, you're going to jail as well." That's basically what it did. It's really very, very simple. You turn around to the people that have been stealing all the money. You say, right, first, stop stealing the money. Second, ease back the money. Third, cancel all these spurious debts that you say we owe you. It's as simple as that. It's really as simple as that. Somewhere, I wonder if I can find this quickly. I downloaded a document a wee while ago, which went into the kind of details of the $21 trillion. $21 trillion that's stashed away in offshore accounts belonging to a very small percentage of the population. We're down at a couple of 100,000 people. $21 trillion. You can't even get your head around that figure. That's 21 million pounds. If you had a stack of, I think it's $50 notes or £50 notes, it was a billion notes and £50 bills. That would be the height of Mount Everest. Now multiply that by another thousands, and you're talking about a trillion. That's the amount of money that a trillion pounds looks like in £50 notes. And when you then multiply that by 21, I mean, for God's sake, we need austerity measures and public service cuts and all the rest of it, and these people are sitting with 21 trillion in offshore accounts that's untaxed.
If they were ever to, what's that lovely phrase, not liquidate, what's the other, if they were to securitise, or if they were to bring to fruition, there's not even enough trees on the planet to be able to print the paper off for this amount of money to be existed. So it's just a figment of someone's imagination, or it's a weapon of mass destruction. That's what it is. A weapon of mass destruction for the societies of the planet to implode upon country after country. And you're right, what the Icelandic people have done, the economic powers of just two simple things, being able to devalue your own currency and to raise the inflation rates, to raise the interest rates, to control your country, to devalue it. These are two short-term, simple measures that, if they were implemented, the long-term pain solution offered by the Nazis in Brussels or Berlin or whatever, the long-term pain of austerity of decades, right, could be wiped out in a couple of years, and everything could get back onto a proper footing, even under corrupt capitalist system. This is no dealing with anything radical that I was speaking about interest-free money. Just two small measures, being able to devalue the currency and being able to control their own interest rates. Just now, that all the countries are ham-fisted, tied in with another economy that has been dominant, the German one. So the exchange rate and the interest rate tied in with an economy that is just totally out of the stratosphere in comparison to them. And people don't understand that this one thing, or these two things, will keep the doom and keep all the problems happening. So they need to look at that model of what the Icelandic people have managed to bring. Is just two things that control your economy, and that's the raising of interest and the devaluation of their economy. Outside bankers of the capitalist system would come in and flood it with investment that it's been deprived of just now, and with the lowering of the exchange, then yes, there would be problems. There would be short-term financial problems, but they've got those short-term, long-term financial problems. It seems like ad infinitum because they ain't moving, they ain't going to change. So we just have to take the bitter pill even bigger, and then the benefits would be the 1-2 years, and that is the model that has not been explored or spoke about anywhere about Iceland, about how it can be turned around in a short period of time with just two small measures. The Ireland can't do it, Greece can't do it, Italy, and these countries are crying out for these two things to happen. Devalue, they won't let them devalue because will possibly bring the whole, and this is the thing that they try to seek to stop happening. They call it the contagion effect, that if one country pulls out, and that's why you don't hear about Iceland, because if one country pulls out, the whole shit shooting match is the game's a bust. I mean, because once one country comes out, they can't say, oh, there's Iceland, it's isolated, it's away up there in the northern reaches of the planet, and nobody knows much about it, so they can isolate that. But once somewhere like Greece or Italy or Portugal or Ireland latches on, then all the rest of the countries might take a while, but as soon as they see, shit, they're starting to boom now, they're starting to benefit, they're starting to employ people, people are starting to come out, the doom there, then every country, and that's what they're seek to do, to shut that alternative down so as people don't go that. So when you hear Merkel saying, you know, like she did a few months ago with that bastard Sarkozy, democracy's fine, but when it comes to the euro, we will kick democracy into touch. Within a few days, they kicked out the Italian government and the Greek government, and they put in these techno fucking crats to dictate to them even more, the people, know what I mean? So the revolution has to come where people say, well, where's the alternative? Where can we do something different? And like you said there, I mean, the stuff that I recommended there is no radical. The radical stuff that you said is the proper stuff that should be getting done, where the people who made this illegal debt that can't be paid, that can't even be fucking printed out on a bit of paper, that is just a figment of somebody's imagination, it should be the computer screens smashed, and the people who are fucking complicit with this theft of the economy and theft of the infrastructure should be jailed ad infinitum. Instead of the pain and misery of people having to be forevermore, it should be these bastards who have organised and engineered this fucking Armageddon of the financial system. These are the bastards who should be in jail for what they've done, because until people wake up, it's just one simple thing, an illusion. Until people don't have faith in this illusion, we're stuck. We're stuck with these fuckers. So it's about time people just, like you said earlier on, two things that control us, the TV, you know what I mean, and distance ourselves from these things that stop us keeping them getting the control, because you drop away from the TV and the consumer society, what they've got nothing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that is the key to this. These people who are controlling the financial system and the banking ministry, they really do have nothing to offer. They are parasites of the highest order. They don't create wealth. They don't put anything into the economy at all. They take it out. They tell us that we need them to organise, finances and money transactions, and all they're doing is stealing money off everybody that uses that system. They don't create a single penny of wealth, and then they turn around and tell us that we owe a sum of money which doesn't even exist. There isn't enough money in the world to pay off all the debt that banks owe to them. I've stuck that link up on your Twitter account for the £21 trillion, or $21 trillion, and I'll just read the headline thing in this at the beginning of the actual report, because you can download the PDF of the report that the BBC article is talking about. It's by the Tax Justice Network, and if you Google Tax Justice Network 21 trillion, you'll find the link to the PDF about 5 or 6 entries down. It says here, at least $21 trillion of unreported private financial wealth was owned by wealthy individuals via tax havens at the end of 2010. This sum is equivalent to the size of the United States and Japanese economies combined. There may be as much as $32 trillion of hidden financial assets held offshore by high net worth individuals, according to the report, which is thought to be the most detailed and rigorous study ever made of financial assets held in offshore financial centres and secrecy structures. We consider these numbers to be conservative. This is only financial wealth, excludes a welter of real estate, yachts and other non-financial assets owned via offshore structures. I'll leave it there. That's worth reading, because the first thing that occurs to me is that any politician that gets up on his hind legs and talks about anything other than that issue is at the madam. And that's again why we must disengage from this system. The whole point of these politicians, and for that matter news outlets, that don't make that their headline story every single day until it's sorted out, is that they don't want us to know it. It's not that the information isn't there, it's not that it wouldn't solve the problem, it's simply that they don't want us to know it. They want us to think the problem is giving childcare to disabled children. That's the problem. We can't give so much money to children that need a wheelchair, or children with Asperger's or autism that need special educational needs. We can't give money to them. That's what the problem is. And the less money we give to them, the sooner we'll be back on track. That's what they want us to think. But here's the facts. $21 trillion sitting at very, very minimum $21 trillion sitting in tax havens. Now, the next question is, why do tax havens exist at all? Why is there such a thing as offshore tax havens? Why do we have the Isle of Man and Jersey and Guernsey and Sark and the British Virgin Islands and all these places? Why do they even exist as tax havens?
Exactly.
This is the question that has to be asked and answered by all these people that are responsible for it, because quite clearly the answer is simply these places exist so that the people who rob us can find somewhere to stash their ill-gotten gains and keep us all screwed to the floor. It's as simple as that. There is no other reason for the existence of these places. No other reason. And we have to get the blinkers off our eyes, let the light shine in this, and just stop anybody, Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrat, Scottish Nationalist, I don't care. If they want to talk about anything else, just tell them to shut up. Shut up. Don't care about independence. Independence doesn't mean a thing to me if it's just changing one banker's puppet from a palace in Westminster to a palace in Holyrood. It doesn't mean a bloody thing.
Exactly.
It's a completely false debate, a complete diversion from the real issue. Give me the independence of being able to put a banker in jail for the crimes against humanity that he's committed, and I'll vote for that. I don't care if it's in London, Edinburgh, Jakarta. I don't care. Anybody that's going to give me that option, Iceland, right? Give me the Iceland option. I'll vote for that. So
right. That's the state of the game that we're at now, because the way they've decimated it, the way they've set up all their stalls for everything to be the way it is, they've no care. But we've laid it out as it is. They're psychopaths. There's a control grid society. They're only happy when they're bringing abject misery and their despotism to every corner of the planet. They've achieved that. They've got world domination. They're the most evil totalitarian system that the world's ever seen, in a complete sense. That what they've got now, it's been unparalleled. I mean, when they had the Roman Empire, it was a part of the world. Now they've got full spectrum fucking dominance. I mean, here in the earth and in the fucking skies everywhere, that's their control. That's the only thing, right, that they miss out, like you said earlier on. They're short-term thinking, and they can't get around it. And this is why they've had Edward Bernays and the whole stuff. The only thing that is free and open and is there is your mind. The thing, your frontal cortex, everything that's in your head. It's the only thing that you have got as a defence mechanism against these psychopaths. So see what you said. I've been implementing the stuff for myself by cutting down on TV, cutting down on the consumer society. Drop out of what they're offering as much as you can, because that is your only defence mechanism. And then when you do that, when you open up a gateway to truth, acknowledgement and true enlightenment that will enable you to be able to decipher, how this control grid works, how to protect yourself and your family. And it's a fight of the control of the mind. When you hear these bastards say hearts and minds, that's exactly what it is, except they don't want your heart and mind for any good purpose. They want it to decimate it and corrupt it, so you will then go on and corrupt others, save them a job to do it when they can get their soldiers out there all brainwashed after each other, inflecting the whole fucking planet. And so we've got psychopaths everywhere, well, it seems anyway, and then in their own way, even the ones who are not fully on psychopaths, people with good hearts and good things, they're affected by it because we're living in a society where it's a breeding ground. So even people with good hearts are affected by it, and the chances and the opportunity to change the status quo are affected because there's so much evilness and badness out there. And as I say, it's a time to retreat and to gain the upper hand because they want control of your mind. And if you can control your mind and your thoughts and what's going into it and not have them control it and brainwashing you, then you're winning the battle. That's the first step of the battle, because at that point, the more people that get onto that level of cleansing themselves from a fascist system of control, it's about cleansing yourself from that, taking the step, distance yourself, don't watch the shitey TV, the mind-numbing, spirit-crushing game shows, distance yourself from your fellow humanity, distance yourself from all that bullshit, and then a new enlightenment will come where people can get together like the Palestinians. Maybe it's going to have to take World War III or whatever, but we're sitting here in a World War situation, we've got nothing, that there's no consumer society before we get that humanity back in a collective way. If that's what it's going to take, then I'm not going to say bring it on, but these people that are running society, that's a level that you identified earlier on. They will stop at nothing. Whatever it takes to implement their evil, devious ways, they'll do it. They'll do it, and they've been, just because they've left us in peace in this country for a few years, doesn't mean they're going to be war or civil strife or people running about with guns all about this country. I mean, it's got the potential to go that way. I mean, who are we to think that countries like Libya or Iraq or Afghanistan, that Britain can't be turned this way? Because these bastards, if they need it, that's where they've become. I mean, they could turn Britain into a battleground just like Iraq within fucking months or years. I mean, if they so wanted it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the fight we've got to try and fight against it, to stop them in their tracks from bringing this Armageddon on. I mean, every manoeuvre that they seem to do is one about attacking people in every single country of the planet, taking away their rights or liberties, stealing it, as if they're saying that these are just dumb schmucks and they can do whatever they want. I mean, their wanton abandon of aggression is just, it knows no bounds. But is there an end game? I'm going to draw the show over because we're nearly at 3 hour mark now. What would you envisage as a way for humanity to fight what seems to be this end game from the psychopaths, Henry?
Well, the most important thing is that we concentrate on the things that are around us, the things that are valuable to us, our own people, our friends, the good things in our life, and we automatically disengage from the system when we start doing that. If you just start spending 3 or 4 hours playing computer games, then you can't really engage with them. You have to get that relationship building in families and societies and company, conversations, talking, sharing thoughts, all these sorts of things. This is where we need them. And it's the same with the internet. If you're on the internet, you're actually talking to people rather than just, numbing your brain. You're actually interacting with people. It strengthens this thing. We all have this thing now. There are people that we've got to know on the internet that we know are good souls and strong people that we have an affection for, and we know if we ever met them, even though we don't even know what they look like, we know that we just hit it off with these people straight away. That's another kind of community that we're building, and it's good. It's good. Obviously, there's predators on the internet as well, and you have to be careful. But these are the things we must concentrate on, because that's where we really live. That's where we exist and fulfill our potential, is in community, sharing of joy, spirits, encouragement, support, all of these empathetic things that we are here for. That's what makes us beings. We do that for each other. We are social people. We are not serfs, we are not slaves, and the more we disengage from the things that the corporations want us to consume, disengage from things that you need to consume, that they want you to consume, and only acquire the things that you need. That's the first enormous step towards taking away the power from the system, which is absolutely based on the desire to make us consume. It's dependent upon us being consumers. And the more we disengage from that, the better. Buy your clothes from charity shops instead of, corporate companies that have their designer labels made in slave labour camps in Indonesia. I'd rather wear a tatty t-shirt that I'm not ashamed of than wear a £30 shirt that was built by somebody was made by somebody who's probably dead now or working a 24-hour shift. These are all things that we can do. They're little things. It's not huge life-changing events every single day. You just decide, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that product. I'm not buying this product. I'm not subscribing to this. I'm not subscribing to that.
It has an effect. It has an effect, doesn't it?
Every little drop counts. I mean, you get a flood. Whole city will be flooded because of a thunderstorm. Well, that's a whole lot of single raindrops that did that. So it's not as if nothing matters. Every time that somebody decides not to go to Tesco's or Walmart, what do you call it, Asda, and to go to a cooperative instead, that's okay. Your milk's 5 dearer or 10 dearer. But at least that's because the dairy farmers get a better shout, a better cut, or somebody's getting a better cut, you know. If you're buying something that's a fair trade product, it's dearer than the one that's comes from a slave. And they are slaves. You know, there's been no abolition of slavery. Slavery was never abolished. It was just rebranded. And all these little things that you do, you decide, I'm going to buy that because it's fair trade. I'm going to buy these fair trade bananas that are a wee bit dearer than the crappy ones from wherever. These things count. And they all add up. And you decide, I'm not going to use a bank for anything that I don't absolutely have to. I'll keep a fiver in an account in case I ever need to use a bank. But everything else I'll say, no, I don't want to pay by direct debit. I'll just hand cash over at the post office. Might be slightly inconvenient, but why should we allow these systems to dictate to us how we spend our money?
Exactly.
We can't do that. Our vote counts for hee-haw. There's no point even voting. It's a waste of time. There's nobody worth voting for. And even if it was, the election would be fixed anyway.
And at this point...
The one vote we have got is the money that we spend. So use that money very wisely and don't encourage the predators to carry on manipulating the consumers.
And at this stage of the age-old battle between humanity and these worthless psychopaths, at this late stage in the game, when so much badness has been done and when so much evil has been allowed to persist and so much cover up from the people in the media and the people who want to keep these dastardly things happening, the most important thing is to believe that we're going to achieve something, that we're never to be despondent. That is the tool of the tyrant, to make us feel despondent and woe is us. But the creative spirit of human beings and the collectiveness, the way we can affect change, the way we can build wonderful structures, the way we can have wonderful conversations that we have had just now to try and enlighten fellow people. It's all about change, because unless we affect this change, then we're facing a fight for humanity. At the rate of 50,000 people dying a day, at the way these crackpots are going at it, what is going to be left for the planet, for future generations? Nothing. And so we're at a race against time, where people with true humanity and heart have to redouble their efforts to stop these psychopaths bringing Armageddon on us all. And there's going to be a tipping point where they'll kill an animal or a species, like the bee or something, or they'll bring something to extinction. And then before we know it, it'll be a vital cog in the great, beautiful biosphere that is a planet is taken away, and all the domino effect will happen and everything crumbles. And this is the challenge that we face. Is there going to be anything left for our children or our children's children? I'll give you another minute or two, bro, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I think it is. I think we will win. I think that there is only one winner in this battle, and it's just a question of how long it's going to be dragged out. Now that the awareness of what we're up against is becoming clearer, and it's not bogeymen, it's not terrorist threat, it's not, benefit scoundrels, whatever. The real menace that we face as a species is the psychopath. Learn to spot the psychopath, see the psychopath in action, disengage from the psychopath at every opportunity. We win. It's as simple as that. we win. Spot them, rumble them, don't engage with them, and they wither on the vine. And that's a victory we can watch for death throes, and they might flail about and take a few down with them. But ultimately, there is only one winner in this battle long term. And the sooner we realise that, and as you say, live accentuating the positive, concentrate on keeping our spirits up and believing, the more we do that, the more quickly the victory will come about.
And it's a victory in itself. It's a victory in itself. If they're wanting us to be despondent and saying woe is us, if we are happy and joyful and it's a victory. It's a victory in itself.
Exactly. They want us to fear, they want us to be worried, they want us to be stressed. And when we say, the hell with it, I'm not worried about a terrorist threat, simply not worried about it, then they failed.
And then true independence against the bankers, and that's what we're going to bring, brother, God willing. Next time we carry this chat on for the independence against the psychopaths and bankers.
Yeah, just independence of mind, that's it. Get our mental, spiritual sovereignty back. Put that at the forefront of your day-to-day existence. And that's a bubble that they cannot penetrate. They can get in there. It's beyond them. Different dimension.
God willing.
We win.
Right, brilliant, bro. We'll call it a wrap there. I'll speak to you soon. We'll get you back on. And I'll reiterate, one of the finest bloggers and chatters out there. What a guy. God bless you, brother. God bless.
Cheers, Tommy. The link for the Century of Self, I've stuck that in your Twitter account there as well. So
brilliant. I'll retweet them as well. Get everybody out there. Get the information spread there. God bless, bro, and I'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Blessings. Yes, I.
There we go. It's uplifting to speak to someone with such knowledge, to listen to someone with insightful stuff. I find what a great guy. Thank you for taking the time to join me and a fellow crackpot opining, talking away. It's almost 3 hours of positivity. There's a huge dollop of negativity, I must say, before I brought the bold Henry Claassen on. I was getting a bit heavy in depth, really angry and frustrated at what the Masonic cabal and cover up. But we'll not go back into that. I'm cleansed. My brother has cleansed me. And yes, I'll play out with a few minutes. Some people have said it's been one of the finest calls I've heard on radio. And we've got about 6 minutes, so I don't know about that, about one of the finest calls, but I can tell you now, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, when I was recounting some of the stuff from what I seen in the chapel the night before the Barcelona game on our birthday, I had tears in my eyes, I had tears in my eyes. So we get 6 minutes. We'll play the last 5 minutes anyway.
It's not about winning at all costs. I mean, it does despair me at times when Celtic fans think, oh, we should be winning at all times. No, I never want Celtic to win at all times, never ever, because that's what caused the downfall of the shysters and IPOC's way. That's what caused their downfall, their willingness to sacrifice everything just to win. It's not all about just winning. I mean, when I go to a Celtic game, when I left the Nou Camp with my daughter, it was a birthday present, her 16th birthday, and I left her saying, it's been the best night ever, Dad. It's been the best night, even though we get beat. And when I left Seville, it was my best night ever, even though we get beat. The best nights ever that I've been with Celtic. When we won 5-4 against Partizan Belgrade, it was the best night ever. But we get put out the cup. So for me, I've enjoyed myself at times. I've lost, sure, the emotion of losing. But the most important thing that makes us different is that we don't need to win to show our true colours. We don't need to win to show what it means to be football fans. We don't need to win to show what it means to be Celtic forever, for 125 years. We've done things the right way. We've done things the proper way. We've not corrupted football by using financial doping. We've not corrupted football by having bent referees, perverting fixtures for decades, for a century. We've not had an exclusive policy of signing just one particular faith, exclusion of others. We have done things the proper way, and we continue to do it the proper way, and that's what makes me So they're drawing today or losing whenever, that means for a second, for a nanosecond, I feel hurt. But then I move on, I look at my children and I see them smiling and happy and think, hey, it could be worse. They could be Sevco fans and they could have a father or a mother who's a zombie and they're brainwashing them into filth and bigotry and hatred. But no, as Celtic family, we nurture our children with love, with humanity, and not to treat others in a bad way, to treat others in a decent way and look for the goodness in all people. And that's what I took from that Celtic chapel, because the chapel of chapels, where it all began. Everybody has to pay homage and go there, homage to St Mary's, and say a prayer for the people who founded an institution, something so blessed, something so beautiful that we call the holy ground, that we call paradise, because these people are saints. They did it for people who were starving, people who had nothing, children who came, whose fathers or mothers maybe died in the famine. They came here and we helped, we fed them. Our brother Walfred, Andrew Cairns, Michael Davitt, John Glass, these people were humans that stood against the adversity of a bigoted Masonic system and built a club out the ashes of nothing for the goodness of the community. And for another 125 years, win, lose or draw, it matters not a jot to me, because I'll always be there with my brothers and sisters. And God bless every one of these. Amen, brother. I'll let you go, yeah?
Tommy, thank you so much for joining us, and you're welcome anytime. Please don't be a stranger. Tommy, your voice graces these airways the same way that Shakespeare's pen graced the paper when he put down his famous works. You're an absolute just testament and a credit to us all. Thank you so much for putting it into perspective for us, and we'll talk to you soon, pal. Cheers. Hello. I don't even know. I don't even want to talk at all after that. How's?
Oh, brother, thanks for letting me on. You can talk. Everybody can talk. We've all got it in us. We've all got the ability to create a wonderful sentence and to get our ideas and thoughts across. Talking is not just for a crackpot like me. It's for everybody. We all do it. We can all be great communicators. Don't let the fascist control system tell you otherwise. The fact you can open your mouth, talk, share the word, spread the love. Glasgow Celtic, champions of the world. We're on the way to Wembley with the bold Tony Watt. And remember the anchoring technique, right hand over left wrist, and watch this moment again and again and again. Make yourself high on life, on the best things, on the good things. Cheer yourself up on the humanity of your fellow brothers and sisters. We're the family called humanity. And the zombie, psychopathic crackpots will never triumph. God willing, God bless, and speak to you all soon. Remember, right hand, left wrist, Tony Watt, hairs in the back of the net, goal. Happy days.
Cross comfortably.
Xavi's error. This is Tony Watt. He's done it. This is the stuff of legend. At the age of just 18, Tony Watt takes his place in Celtic folklore. This is mind-blowing. This is Celtic 2, Barcelona 0.
Well, it's certainly a goal that this young man will remember, not just for the rest of his career, but for the rest of his life. Xavi!
Hail, hail. Speak to you soon. God bless.